All right, we're live.
Hello
Hello,
world. Are you actually recording this?
yeah.
Okay.
TJump
Like,
told me
where
to.
do you end up posting it?
Oh, you don't know the channel? Let me send all what I'll do when I'm done with the recording. I'll send you a link on your DMs.
All right.
God, dude, what a day. Were you in the politics and religion server all day?
No, I end up leaving because concrete was killing my brain cells. And my brain cells, I need to save my brain cells whenever I talk to Chris. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, concrete. Oh my god. Wow. You talk about. I mean, just.
cement plus, yeah, just his brain is literally cement, bro. Like literally. Like I'm glad he chose that name because holy shit, he has even takes that make the dork doofens cringe. Like God um can kill himself. If he's eternal, then that means he can't cease to exist. So he has no ability to kill himself. So even if he tried, so
Yeah.
oh god.
I mean,
I
his.
mean, like it hit like that server is a shit show.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
It's just um you know what it is? It's like that GIF. Have you seen that or GIF or whatever you want to pronounce it as? Have you seen that GIF of in wrestling where Rick Flair is like pulling someone into the ring, but the opponent isn't even trying, or Rick Flair isn't even trying to like pull them into the ring.
I have not
That's
seen that. Dude, I gotta see that. Can you
that
post it?
that that explains all the voice chats and PNR. It's just circle jerking Darth. It's just, oh Darth, please, Daddy. Oh, and then you have his little minions that parrot everything he says. Like that one kid. I
That's right.
forget his name. Yeah.
Hey Liam, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, we're talking about the PNR politics and religion server. Are you on that one?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Oh my gosh. It's just a disaster.
It's not great. Yeah, I was on there the other night, and yeah, not bringing their best. I'll say that.
Yeah. There's this guy on there called Concrete Plus. I don't know if you heard of him, but
Yeah, I know concrete. Yeah,
oh my gosh. He makes the worst arguments I've ever heard. I mean, just pathetically bad, like weird argument, and it's like he doesn't even try to argue for like the existence of God. Like I don't understand what he was trying to argue. Do you understand what he's trying to argue, Grandmaster?
No, he said something about God can kill himself. That's the only part I got to it.
I
That's
mean,
like so retarded.
I
So
did not
I can't
understand it.
say that. Yeah, it's awful. He's an open theist, so according to like Andricus, so
he's an
he's
open theist.
obviously gonna get some hate from like the other Christians on there.
Yeah,
He's also moral relativist. Like, what the fuck is going on with that? He's a
That's fucked
theist, but
up.
he's a moral relativist.
There seem to be a lot of people there who have really weird, like
Facts.
malformed understandings of like philosophy. Like B3 and Barth. Like they say things like they use the terminology, but it really and like I'm not trying to be rude, it doesn't seem like they have a very like thorough understanding of like anything that they're talking about. Like they just sort of string words together.
It's like
Actually, it's kind of
when
yeah.
it's like when someone tries to quote mine a philosopher and say, "Look, this is what this philosopher said," and they completely misrepresent what that philosopher said. Even if they use the terminology of that philosopher and they think that they're explaining things accurately, they aren't. This
It
is like
actually
the
is
opposite of
kind of
that
what you'd expect
conversation.
if someone learned like philosophy solely through like just listening to people talk about it, like other laymen on Discord, right? Like just sort of like how an AI would imitate people talking about philosophy.
When are all those theists gonna come in here and try to debate when it's not on their home turf?
Yeah, I don't know. Hey Gizmo, what's up, man? You there? All right, cool. So Liam, are you a fan of TJump or how did you come into the server?
I'm in a lot of servers. Am I a fan of TJump? Eh, not really, but I don't hate him or anything.
Would you consider yourself like a theist, atheist? What would you go for?
Um, I'm really not sure. I'm not even sure about the labels themselves, right? Because there's like debate about what those terms even mean. So, not even that I'm an agnostic, it's that I'm not even sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a Christian. I used to be one, but since I stopped, I haven't really thought about the metaphysics, like the strict question of like theism versus atheism. Like the question of religion is more interesting to me, and I'm fairly strongly against.
Okay. Yeah, for I used to be like a young earth creationist and I came out of that. But
Lol.
I know Grandmaster. But it's like I
I
was
can't
watching
even imagine that. I can't even imagine you being one.
Yeah, and
It's interesting what people used to believe.
yeah. I watched well, I used to be like a Ken Hovineite. So I used to watch all Ken Hovine's
Oh, very
videos.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool, dude.
I know Grandmaster's gonna freaking lose his shit, but uh
Yeah.
no, but anyway, I saw the debate between Ken Hovind and Aaron Ra, and that got me interested in like learning more about evolution. So I started learning more about evolution, and I started watching more on Ra videos, and so I started to slowly but surely lose my faith in in Christianity. So that's how I basically became like I would call myself agnostic right now. So that's my position.
Mhm. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I think that like, do you feel like your personality is different now?
No, not really. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
no.
neither. But it feels like it's very different for different people. Like I used to be vegan. I used to be a Catholic. I used to be well, yeah. I guess those are the two main ones. And I wasn't a different guy like at all. Even though like vegans tend to be a certain way, like personality wise. Like I would go to leave meetings and stuff and just have nothing in common with those people. Like even though I was like a full blown vegan or whatever. And yeah, it's very interesting because some people do have like big personality changes, like Foxy. I guess like I met him a year ago, and that was the last time I was sort of on this part of Discord. And he now is like a very different guy than when he was just sort of a mere theist. Like when he's now sort of a religious guy, he's much more aggressive. I would say. Maybe I've got the wrong read, but I don't know if you even know that guy.
Yeah, I know Fox. He debated T Jump 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube if you want to watch it. Yeah, Foxy. I've known Foxy for a while. I didn't know him when he was like maybe you met him before I did, but I mean he's always had that like Darth Dawkins kind of script ever since I met him. So
Yeah, they even pick up the mannerisms, like the okay after every sentence, so to keep the chain of sound. You can't have dead air at all because someone jumps in. That's like a disadvantage of like I don't actually think that like voice Discord, because I come from like text Discord. I don't think the voice Discord is actually a very productive place as far as like learning things goes. I think it's very fun, but I do think that there's a reason why like philosophy and I guess all serious academic discussion happens in text, like for the
Yeah,
most part.
I would agree. I would agree with you. We have, I mean, here on this server, there are a lot of good conversations that go on that are strictly text. And once in a while, I like opening up the VC just if people want to come in and talk about whatever. Um,
It's definitely more fun. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So are you? So what is when you say you aren't interested in the labels? What do you mean by that? Like,
So, like, there's an open question as to what each of those terms even means, right? Like, what does it mean to be an atheist? What does it mean to be a theist? And I feel like I don't have a justified position on like a particular definition of any of those. So I wouldn't like claim to any of them. I wouldn't identify as one. But I don't want to be like some slippery weirdo. Like I'm not religious, and I can't. I've determined that I can't believe in Orthodox Islam or Christianity. Like that's my main position. And the stuff about God, you know, I think theism, as I understand it, is like a plausible position. I think that atheism, as I understand it, is like a plausible position. Um, it's just the stuff about religion that I'm particularly concerned about.
so what led you to leave Christianity or Catholic? You said you were a Catholic, right?
Yeah, I was Catholic. Yeah. Well, nothing about Catholicism specifically. It was that so I was torn between Christianity and Islam, and I felt as though the only thing that could possibly matter, I still feel this way, is this sort of infinite positive or negative utility associated with heaven and hell. And if that's true, and you know we've got Islam and Christianity on the table as the only two major religions or religions at all, really, if you research it, that posit these sort of infinite heaven and hell, then the only thing that matters is getting that question right. And I kind of lived my life that way for a while. For I don't know, a year or two, I was very torn, very torn, and constantly tortured basically by this question. And I was doing a lot of research and reading and thinking and talking about the decision between these two religions. And eventually, I sort of thought about it, and from a Episcopalian perspective, because that's sort of how I got into Christianity initially. Um, God has put us in this sort of impossible position where, say, I don't know, going to your child's like violin concert or something is an option, or reading like a journal article about like some issue pertaining to like the truth of Islam or Christianity. Those are two things you could do with your evening. It is infinitely more rational, or yeah, you're infinitely making a mistake to go to a child's concert, and that applies with everything. The only thing that could possibly matter is getting this one decision right, because any finite amount of utility, like the one associated with like going to your kid's concert or whatever, is going to be infinitely outweighed by the expected utility difference of getting this one question right between Islam and Christianity. So yeah, like, I couldn't believe, and I still can't believe that God would put us in that position. So I can't believe in like Orthodox Islam or Christianity. I mean, like a weird version of either where there isn't heaven or hell, then maybe. But yeah, that's my take.
I see. That's very interesting. So it's almost like it's almost like is it would you say it's like almost like the problem of evil where
Yeah, similar.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like that, right? Like it's almost like if God, why would God cause this conundrum to go on in people's lives and put us in
yeah,
that position? You know,
yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can
don't
see
want
it.
to say that I have some sort of I mean the way I would put it if I had to put an argument to it would be like if Orthodox Islam or Christianity is true, then you know God put us in this sort of impossible situation where we're rationally obligated to maximize for nothing but getting this one decision right, and sort of putting by the wayside anything else. Um, and then like you can't believe that God put us in that circumstance, and if you can, then you know go figure. And then just from those two, then you can't believe in Islam or Christianity.
Yeah. So why were you torn between Islam and Christianity? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, Episcopalian sort of reasoning. Like, so the first thing that got me turned on to religion in a like intellectual way was this article called "If Nothing Matters" by Guy Kahane, which essentially is like a Pascalian case for believing in the supernatural, maybe, or meaning, and well,
Can you go deeper
meaning.
into what you mean by Piscali? I'm not sure. I've never heard
Oh,
that
okay.
term before.
So have you heard of Pascal's wager?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that's what it's referring to. So
Oh,
essentially,
okay.
the utility, and I don't mean that in like some ethical utilitarian sense. Like the utility is in like the function of believing in things and comparing sort of the expected utility of each option on the table. So in the Guy Kahane paper, I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right. I've been referring to this paper for years. I've never known how to pronounce it. But we could believe that some things matter, or we could believe that nothing matters. And it could be that nothing matters, and it could be that some things matter. And if you draw up this table of possibilities, then it turns out that we should believe that some things matter. Because if nothing matters, then it couldn't matter that we believe that nothing matters, or that something matters, right? There would be no, reason to believe or not believe. But if things do matter, then it's quite important, I think, intuitively anyway. This is the argument I was convinced by, that we do believe that things matter. So if nothing matters, then it's neither good or bad to believe either way. But if things do matter, then it is good to believe, and it's bad to not believe. So just by that line of reasoning, we should believe that things matter. And I was further convinced that in order to secure this sort of things mattering, then we needed something supernatural. So like souls or eternity, right? Some sort of ultimate concern, ultimate difference to be made. And I felt that of the various options on the table for something that fulfills that, I had to choose ones that maximize my chance of not suffering infinite, or minimize my chance of suffering infinite hell, right? Because while it might be nice to believe in, I don't know, Hinduism or something, any religion that posited an infinite hell, sort of from a Pascalian perspective, strictly beat it, right? I couldn't believe in anything that didn't. And the only two options there, if you sort of research religions in that, is pretty much Islam and Christianity. Like some radical views on Judaism might have it, and like Zoroastrianism might have it, but realistically, the only two plausible religions, as far as like demographics go, like I don't know. Well, yeah, it's difficult to reconstruct what I used to believe, but yeah, the only two religions that seemed plausible to me were that posited an infinite heaven or hell were Islam and Christianity. So that's how I sort of narrowed it down.
Well, what was it about the heaven and hell part that attracted you, or not attracted you, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
was
yeah.
yeah,
So it's the same reasoning, right? So if heaven and hell do exist, or one of them exist, then it matters a lot that you believe in the thing, because this is the sort of connection, right? Like if you believe in Christianity and Christianity is true, then you go to heaven, or something like that. There's association between those two. And if you don't believe in Christianity and Christianity is true, then you're probably more likely to go to hell, right? And the same for Islam, right? There's a sort of association between belief in the religion and this infinite utility or disutility. And that infinite disutility or utility, it outweighs infinitely any finite utility or disutility. So by the same sort of chain of reasoning, we can like take off the table any religion that doesn't have these infinite utilities, because like the expected utility of believing in Christianity is going to be infinitely greater than in I don't know, some like finite religion, like I don't know,
like
Hinduism or
Buddhism.
something. Buddhism, yeah, Buddhism, like you eventually get abolished or something, right? So if you believe in Buddhism and Christianity is true, that's really, really bad. But if you believe in Christianity and Buddhism is true, then you're all right, because you're not going to go to infinite Buddhist hell.
Right. I get that. Yeah, so it's like the ultimate Pascal's wager. Not
Yeah,
like yeah. I guess I've never been convinced by it because and this is something Tom says, but you know, there could be any many types of
the opposite
gods.
religion. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like there's different options on the table, and like there's even gods that we don't know about. The like the unknown god from the like the Greeks, they talked about the unknown god. So
yeah.
it's in terms of like, go ahead.
The way I've been talking a lot, but the way I would respond to that back when I was a Christian was the only thing that I have to show to rationally obligate you to belief in Christianity, taking like Islam off the table for a moment, is that Christianity is infinitesimally more likely than reverse Christianity. That is the religion that sends you to hell forever for believing in Christianity and vice versa. And I felt that was a pretty easy task because there was some sort of association in my mind between the belief of experts, like I don't know, philosophers who are particularly concerned with arguments for and against religion and God, and a bunch of these people, maybe not majority, maybe a vast minority, but still a bunch of them believe in Christianity, and none of them believe in sort of reverse Christianity. And as such, it is at least infinitesimally more likely that Christianity is true. And so you're still rationally obligated because even at an infinitesimal difference, if you multiply it by infinity, you get an infinite difference of utility.
But what about what? So what would you say to like people who believe in Islam then in that sense?
Well, that's exactly the question, right? Like,
Right,
you
right.
have to. The question is, which is more likely, Christianity or Islam? And that's the question that like tore at me for like a year or two. And like I was saying earlier, like the fact that like the only thing that could matter is getting this decision right. If one of them is true, then that this is not a position that I believe God would put us in. Like, I can't believe that.
Right. Yeah. Well, so we both like lost our faiths in different ways, but I mean, it's like it like part of the reason I left Christianity was the problem of evil. I mean, that was
Right.
definitely part
Yeah.
of it. So
Yeah, that's very compelling. Yeah.
it is like that's my main argument when I'm discussing like topics with Christians. I bring up the problem of evil all the time because I feel like that's like it's almost impossible to defeat that position,
Yeah.
because
I
it's
had a
like,
pretty wacky response, but
oh, go for it, yeah, go for it.
yeah, so the way I used to go was this very oh fuck, let me see if I can find the paper. Uh so one way to go is to say the skeptical theism route, but in a more radical way is to say you don't actually know that anyone is suffering, right? That anyone exists really who's conscious,
Oh my
who
gosh.
is suffering, right?
Yeah.
So you could posit that like, you know, God sort of creates this um, sand pit. What's the word? Um, like for people to play in, like kids. Is that what it's called? Whatever.
Sand uh sandbox.
Sandbox. Yeah, a
Yeah.
sandbox. And he creates it to sustain entities that are worth morally sustaining. So people who don't get tortured and then die, and then everything else in the sandbox is just experiencing stuff, not necessarily. Not experiencing stuff necessarily, right? So like the deer that gets caught in a tree in a wildfire and dies. It's like a classic case for like the problem of evil. That just isn't experiencing anything. I mean, we don't know that that's not the case, right? So we don't know that this isn't the best of all possible worlds. And we could also say if God is like omnipotent and omnibenevolent, and I know there are problems with those, but if we say that, then what we might expect, and this is the paper that I think I can link. Yeah, um, then we might expect the world to be a multiverse, which includes every possible world which is worth morally sustaining, right? So we would just be one of, trillion, gajillion, quadrillion worlds, and all of them in conjunction can compose the multiverse, which is like worth sustaining. And like that's why, because even if this world is kind of bad, it's not the perfect world. Um, there are other worlds which this one it might just be marginally okay enough to be worth sustaining morally, and there might be other ones which are way better, and it would be all the ones that are worth sustaining.
Right. So, all right, let me see if I can. All
This
right.
is the paper I'm getting that from.
Yeah. Post it on a Yeah, post it in Thea's helpline, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll read through it. I'll try to see what I think about it. So yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting though, the fact that like that what if there certain, I mean, it's like radical skepticism, like
Yeah.
yeah, like no, like there's no suffering going on, like in certain situations, like you said, like the deer in the tree or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but I mean, I guess I would just say it's obvious that there's suffering going on. I mean, you see
Yeah. I
it,
mean,
you experience it, you know.
yeah. The only thing that I was aiming to show when I said that was that it wasn't impossible for Christianity to be true. And that was all I needed, right? Because of the Pascal stuff. Like, even if Christianity was like 0.00001, right? Like, as far as like credence or plausibility or whatever goes, because of the Pascal stuff, you'd still be rationally obligated to believe in it, even if naturalism was 99999.9% or whatever.
Right.
Um,
So
because
it's
of
almost
the,
like you have faith in God or whatever, or you have this like relationship with God because of like almost like the fear of not having it,
yeah,
you feel like if you're not, like you said, like the utility of it, it's almost
yeah,
like it if if this promises you something, like it's almost like the question, like if you're an atheist, then you're just gonna die anyway, so why not have faith and believe,
yeah.
and then you might get the chance of going to heaven, like, so that's basically how I see it. I mean, and
Well,
that
do you want to
makes
know my
sense.
response to that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm big on Nietzsche now, and I have been since I sort of left Christianity. And one approach, which I don't know if he says it explicitly, but you can kind of draw it from his materials, is eternal recurrence, which is this idea that everything that has been will be again. So we're sort of on this infinite loop, and that would mean that you do have an infinite utility or disutility, but it's associated with this imminent life, like the life you're living right now. Everything you do, positive or negative utility, is going to be, and by utility, I just mean sort of like fulfillment of preference, right? Like, no matter what your view on ethics is or whatever,
Right.
um, it's going to happen an infinite number of times. So if you compare the probability of eternal recurrence with, because just the chance of it, right, with like believing in it. I mean, it's not as though believing in eternal recurrence will grant you some infinite heaven or hell, but belief in it might, or just sort of acting as though you believe in it, might, if it's true, result in infinite utility or disutility, right? Because if you don't care about this life, right, then it's going to be maybe really bad. And if that's true, and if eternal recurrence is true, then it's going to be infinitely bad, right? So if eternal recurrence is true, it would make it really, really important that you got this life right, right? That you did things, well, not
Right.
correctly, but like,
Yeah.
that you fulfill your preferences.
In like my opinion about like, and this is something I talk to Christians about, but like I feel like the ultimate goal of humanity is to maximize their potential, thus um maximizing their happiness, because I feel like if you maximize your potential in life, whatever that potential might be, whether you're meant to be like a leader or a worker or a thinker, like there's different positions that people have. But if you maximize your potential, then you maximize your happiness. So so yeah, so I feel like maximizing happiness is the most important thing in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, it would depend on how you define happiness, but I think I'm sympathetic to something like that because I think there are situations where you might be experiencing less sort of like pleasure, but you might be like fulfilling your preferences better. Like, and it might be that sometimes pain is legitimately like the best option or something. But
Right.
like, if you just define happiness in this sort of like very broad way as like, I don't know, fulfilling your preferences or
Yeah, that's what I mean
expanding.
by
Yeah.
happiness, like fulfilling your preference. Like that's what I meant by it. Like
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, basically, because if you're fulfilling your preferences, then you're obviously going to be happy about it, So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it goes hand in hand. Like if I'm not if you're not like you say, like maximizing your preferences, then you're going to be unhappy in life. And I feel like
Right.
gaining that joy, almost like that peace, that inner peace or that joy that that people long for, and they search they search religion or they search other means to gain that, like drugs. They can gain that without those things. Like they can gain that by just, like you said, maximizing their preferences, doing being the best individual they could possibly be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's the thing with eternal recurrence, right? If you believe in a religion and it sort of harms your finite utility in this life, then that's actually harming your infinite utility, right? And we can compare that infinite utility of this life with their supposed infinite utility of the next life, which I don't believe in anymore. Yeah. Also, just out of curiosity, are you like a moral realist?
Uh, I'm not sure where I stand on ethics.
Mhm.
That would be ethics, right?
Yeah, that's ethics. Yeah.
Yeah, that's ethics. Yeah. So I'm
Well, you might call it meta ethics.
meta ethics, right? Um, I'm not sure where I stand on that. Like I like TJump's. I don't know if you know his. He's a moral realist, and he
I've
holds.
listened to him
You've
talk
heard
about
of
it.
him
Yeah.
before, yeah. And he
Yeah.
has he holds subjective morality, and he says it's based on like a law of nature or what do you call it? Emergent property of nature,
Yeah.
something like that. So, but I'm not really sure where I stand on it at this point. Like the whole moral system is, to me, is like it's all screwed up. Like we should
Right.
be. I mean, what's your opinion on it? And then I'll tell you mine.
Um, my meta ethical view. I think I'm sympathetic to well, like constructivism, which is the view that like ethics, meta ethics, like ethical propositions hold their truth or falsity dependent on like features, immutable features of minds, like how minds work. So for example, like a constitutivist says that you're not moving from like you inescapably do X to you should X. It's like you inescapably aim at Xing, and that means you should X. So that kind of move I'm quite sympathetic to. I think that like if we have knowledge about like certain features of the mind, certain immutable features, then we can get from there to like true ethical propositions. And that's sort of like the Kantian project. Like he's saying that like if you're a bad person, you're in some way like contradicting yourself. And I don't know, that seems like a plausible case to me.
Can you elaborate further into what you mean by that? I didn't. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Like, so are you
Yeah.
saying? So are you saying like that we have certain features in our minds that like lead us to take certain steps forward? Like, explain.
Um so one might say this. So the Nietzschean constitutivist, I'll just use a specific example because it might be like simpler. Might say that it's like a feature, a definitional feature of life to grow, to have this thing called the will of power, which it has certain connotations in English, but in the original, it sort of more connotes like just this fundamental tendency toward expansion, growth, overcoming, increasing strength. And this is, in Nietzsche's view, sort of the defining characteristic of anything that's alive. And I think in his view, everything is alive. But that's like a separate and like harder concept. But anyway, if that's the case, right? Then life inescapably aims at sort of growth, expansion, etc. In this sort of very broad sense. And if that's the case, then we might be able to say that an ethical statement, like a should statement or any sort of normative statement,
Oh, I
might
get
hold
it.
truth.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
getting it now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's
Because
like
of that.
because of that, right? Like the feature is what leads us down. Like this is what we should do. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I get it now. Yeah, I that's interesting, man. I never heard that before. So what is it called again? You said constructivism.
Constructivism. Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. I never heard that theory before. Yeah.
It's relative. It's like more popular in like academic philosophy. I don't hear it spoken about much on like Discord. I'm not sure why it's not as popular because people tend to either be theists or error theorist atheists for some reason. Um, I'm not sure why that is, but like the more moderate positions don't seem very well represented. It's unclear whether or not constructivism is like a subjective or an objective morality, or moral realist, or moral anti-realist, because
Right.
those positions are generally characterized as being like either your view has morality be dependent on minds or not dependent on minds. And if there were no mental, then I guess constructivism would have it that there is no ethics, right? But at the same time, it wouldn't hold like a subjectivist that like the moral just depends on what people think, because it doesn't, right? What it depends on is sort of immutable features of minds, which aren't how people think. Um, so yeah, it's unclear whether it's realist or anti-realist, but I would prefer to call myself a realist, but just because it's cooler. Anti-realism is kind of
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like a defeatist position. It seems like you've lost something that you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I sort of lean towards more towards the realist position as well. But I
Hmm.
it's a really interesting concept. Like almost like we're following nature in that sense.
Yeah,
Instead of like trying to define morality ourselves, we follow the patterns that we see, and
yeah,
we label those patterns as like things you should do or things you should strive to do rather than in your viewpoint in this constructivism, what would be
yeah.
the bad in that situation? What would you consider like the doing wrong or whatever?
Yeah, so if you inescapably aim at X, and X in this sort of example is like growth, let's just shorthand it to that, then the failure to attain that is is bad, right? Because if we're moving from you inescapably aim at X to you should X, then the inverse of that would be if you inescapably aim at X, then you shouldn't fail to X, right? So I don't know, example of that in a very primitive sense, you could say like death is like bad in a very broad way, right? That's the sort of um, like broad outline of how it would
So
work.
you would say death is immoral, like death itself is like an immorality, like because
Um,
I mean, aren't we aiming towards death anyway? Like, isn't that like a
yeah, I see what you mean. Getting into the specifics of how like ethics relates to metaethics is it makes things hard, but I think that yeah, the metaethical view would just be that if we inescapably aim at Xing, then it's bad to fail to X, and however you want to relate that to an ethical claim, that's sort of a separate question. But if I were to have a stab at it, I guess I'd say that like death and decay are like in general bad things, but there might be exceptions. I don't know.
okay? All right.
What were you talking about when you said you had like a metaethics? Like you had something in
Oh,
mind?
I don't like my entire my I don't know. It's gonna sound kind of weird, but it's like I don't like I see life in a certain way, like because I've gone through a lot, like mental problems and stuff. So um,
Hmm.
and because of that, I've come to the realization almost like that the goal there should be like I feel like we should get away from like calling things good and bad, because it's like and maybe this is like a new position, I'm not sure, or maybe you can tell me if this like aligns with some other position that I'm not sure about. But it's like we should have a goal in mind, like this is what we want to accomplish, and anything
Hmm.
that that prevents that goal from occurring is what we would label bad. But I feel like people are born a certain way, and like people are born to be a certain way. So like this person's born to maybe become like a truck driver, right? And this person's born to become like a fight like a senator, right? And so the there are differences in what in their like their it's called what is it called when their determination. So they're determined differently, and they should maximize their potential, and I feel like that's what's the good. Do you understand?
Hmm.
Like maximizing
Yeah.
potential is I'll finish right quick. Maximizing potential is what's the good, and not maximize and like trying to be like other people. Like if you weren't meant to be like, it's almost like, you know how the parent is I'm sorry if I'm long-winded, but do
No,
you
no,
know
no.
how
I've talked like 80,000 times more than you. Keep going. I'm interested.
but do you know how like the it's like the baseball parent coach who like coaches his kids to be baseball players, and he's rough on them, and he tells them, you
Hmm.
know, you should be this way or whatever, and but they're not happy at the end of the day, so they're not maximizing their potential because maybe they were never meant to be baseball players. So it's like,
Right.
if we learn to like understand, and this is getting into more like psychology, I guess. But if we were to understand what a person is determined to be, like from the time they're born, like what their genetics is like, how they're genetically predestined to kind of behave in life, and we maximize that potential, then people would ultimately be better in life. And not doing that, and like trying to push people into being something they're not, is what like causes the evil and the suffering in the world. So that's basically my take on it.
Hmm. No, I think I understand. I'm trying to think if there's a view that I can think of with like a name that that reminds me of. Um, well, you did say that you think that we should abandon the project of calling things like good or bad, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's helpful, because I think it's just like, instead of calling it good or bad, it's like maximizing potential, or
Hmm.
and not imitating someone else's, like their you know who they're trying to, like, not imitating other people's like who they're supposed to be. So everyone's different. Like, I'm supposed to be
Hmm.
one way, you're supposed to be the other way, and if you try to imitate me, or try to do the things that I do, then that's where it all gets kind of messed up.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, that seems like hmm.
I mean, it's just a working theory. I'm not sure. If anything, I
No,
would
no,
call
yeah, fair
myself
enough. Yeah.
yeah. If anything, I would call myself like a subjectivist more than anything else. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's an easy position to have.
right.
I think that's like plausible. Yeah.
I feel like evolution is like the driving force behind our morality, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
but like basically my viewpoint is like, I feel like we need to like understand genetics better. Like, if you were genetically like some people were just genetically pre like presupposed. I don't know how, I'm not sure how, I'm not saying the word right, but it's like they were supposed to be a certain way, you know, like, and
Hmm.
so we shouldn't interfere with that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's actually some uh what's the word here? Similarity between what you were talking about and what I was talking about.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, there is no, I definitely like that. Like,
yeah.
what you and me believe are like very similar, which is why
Yeah.
I told you about mine, because I was like, that sounds a lot like what I believe. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Um
yeah,
I guess I'll ask you a few more questions then. Like do you have like any thoughts on like epistemology? Like just I guess the most basic question is like about like the Munchausen trilemma?
can you explain that to me?
Yeah, sure. It's like pretty much the only thing that gets discussed
Munchausen
ultimately
trilemma. Yeah,
online.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to remember. What was it was? It's three
Infinitism, coherentism, or foundationalism,
foundations. Yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
Yeah. Um. Yeah, like it gets discussed a lot on here because of the precepts. Like I don't think if it weren't for them, well, this place might not be very active. But also, like epistemology, I don't think would get as much treatment as it does.
yeah.
Because epistemology isn't as interesting as ethics, right? Like in itself, unless there's some much bigger question, like should I go to church behind it?
Yeah, no, they're completely confused. Have you
Yeah.
have you encountered a lot of precepts here on the internet, or like?
Yeah, I've not spoken to them too much, but I've listened to some of the videos on YouTube and that.
So what's your opinion on the Munchausen trilemma? Where do you stand on that?
Um, well, recently I've been kind of looking into infinitism as a legitimate answer.
By the
Sort
way,
of a
I can I
hmm?
just say I've never heard this like infinitism. Like, you know how you're talking about it was Nietzsche, right, that came up with it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Like it's almost like we have like an infinite loop. Like I've never heard that theory before. That's very interesting.
yeah, eternal recurrence. It's like
Eternal occurrence, yeah.
it's a theory also. Well, a theory. Like that kind of concept gets discussed in ancient Eastern religions sometimes, and Ecclesiastes talks about it too.
Is is
Um,
that is that like is that like almost like Buddhism in a way where it's like we will come back as a different like being or whatever like
the um, the themes of cyclical patterns very prominent in like basically all the Indian religions actually, like Jainism, Hinduism, Sikhism, and yeah, Buddhism as well. Like the endless loops, but Buddhism actually treats it as like this great evil, right? And it's sort of Nietzsche's inversion of that, which
right.
distinguishes them.
Yeah, they have to escape from that loop.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting, man. Yeah,
yeah.
I've never like heard of like someone actually like putting that forth as like an option against like what were the Pascal's wager. Like I've never.
Pascal's wager, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was kind of what got me around the issue.
But anyway, what were you saying before about
Oh
the
yeah,
dilemma?
so I guess what I was thinking about with justification was so say I arrive after sort of a series of like how do you know that, how do you know that, whatever's to well it's indubitable, which just means that I can't doubt it. Like a candidate might be like I can't doubt that there aren't square circles or something like that's inconceivable, and that's the kind of thing that justifies it, and that's just what I mean by justification, right? Like what I mean by justification includes things being indubitable. And then they say, okay, well, how do you justify your claim that it is indubitable? And I would say, well, that's indubitable. And then they could go on asking me that question, right? And they could say, okay, well, how do you know that? And it might turn out that there's a sort of infinite chain of indubitables that goes on, but we can know that it's like always justified because we can know that like some base case is like justified, like for n equals 0, like the first case, and we can know that for every case after a case, like n plus 1, it's justified. So we can know like that the infinite chain, in the same way we could know that like the trillionth digit of 1 over 3 is 3, because we know that like every digit after a digit is going to be 3. We can know that the whole chain is justified.
And so, what would you call this? Like this
Infinitism.
position?
So
Infinitism. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I
it's
forgot.
separate to the eternal recurrence thing, but infinitism is so like I guess there are three options, right? So you can say like how do you justify such and such, and eventually you're either going to loop back around, right? You're going to have a circular chain of reasoning, or you can say that there's an axiom, like there's something foundational,
Right, right.
or you can say that it goes on forever, right? Like you just never
So
stop.
yours is like
Uh,
is the one that goes on forever, basically.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm, that's interesting.
Well,
Okay.
I don't know if I want to say that that's like my position for sure. I'm
Oh,
just sort
that's
of
oh,
like
you're just thinking
exploring
about it.
it.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like a plausible candidate, right? And if someone really pressed me, I think I'd probably say that. But yeah,
So it's like an endless chain of justification, right?
yeah, yeah,
So they just so it's like one like everything is justified like by the predecessor, like what came before it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And the important thing is that it doesn't entail that I have an infinite number of things in mind, right? Because that's the very natural sort of like response would be like, well, obviously you don't have like an infinite number of things in your head.
Yeah, but
But
wouldn't that wouldn't infinitism run into problems when it comes to like explaining like the origins of the universe? Like because at that point you're isn't like the universe like a necessary like static beginning? Like isn't that what what most people believe the universe was created from, like something static that was like infinite, rather than like something instead of like a infinite like chain of explanations that
Oh
never.
yeah. So the explanations aren't external. So well, for one, like eternal recurrence, if I believe in that, well, now we're mixing two things up here, but like
I'm sorry.
just with the infinitism thing, we would say, well, infinitists would say, I'm not going to try and associate myself with like actual philosophers, but people would say it's just mental. So if I want to justify something, right? Like I say that there's I don't know, a water bottle on the table right now, and
Right.
I have some justification for that, and then I have some justification for that, and some justification, and that goes on forever. And those justifications aren't like, well, there's a table here, and then there's like some other fact about like the woodworking industry that makes it so that the table's here, and some other fact about like world history that makes so that that's not sort of the project. That's like kind of giving an account of like how the water bottle ended up there. My like claim, infinitism's claim, is just like how we know that the water bottle is in fact here, and so it doesn't have anything to do with um, like how it ended up there, right? It's just sort of like oh well, I see it there, and then well, how do you justify that? Well, it's indubitable that like that sort of sense perception. Well, we could just say that's what I mean, right? Is that I see it, and then how do you justify that? Well, so on and so on and so on, and there's
Oh, I
infinite
get
chain.
it. Right, right. It's like a chain of reasoning, but it's all mental. Like it's not
Yeah,
going to the I understand. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like if someone were to ask you like I'm sorry if I'm like pressing you, but like okay, so like if someone were to ask you like all right, let me think. Um like okay, so you don't believe in God. All right, we'll just call you like an atheist for now or whatever. Even though I know you don't like the label. So if someone were to ask you like um is there a God? Like what how would you answer that question like in that sense?
If someone asked me, "Is there a God?" I would say maybe, if I'm being honest.
Oh, okay. And then if someone were to ask you, well, how do you know that?
Oh, you want to get at the precept thing?
No, no, no,
Um.
no, no. I'm trying
Oh.
to get at the infinitism, but
Oh.
I'm
Okay.
trying to come
Sure.
up with like a chain of reasoning that goes
Oh.
back.
Okay.
Like,
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. So I would say uh well, there are a variety of philosophical arguments for and against God, and they seem to me to be some of them plausible, both the ones for it and the ones against it. And I don't have any particular reason otherwise to accept it or to refuse the proposition. And that's what justifies my view that it's sort of a maybe.
what justifies that?
What justifies that is my view that people who are experts are generally, um, well, my view that experts holding a belief increases the probability of that belief being true so long as that belief is associated with what the experts are, you know, uh, that what they're an expert in. And what justifies that, I'll start to preempt you, is that
Go for it.
certain facts about the world, and then it goes so on and so on and so on. I'll just skip to the end. It's indubitable. So what that means is that I can't doubt something, and something that I can't doubt. An example might be like how to put this, like law of identity, right? A equals A,
A equals
that
A.
kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yeah.
and those kinds of truths I think are sort of properties of the mind, right? So like it's just the way that our mind works, the limits of our mind. So I would take the laws of logic to be like formal expressions of the limits of our mental world. So it wouldn't actually make any sense to ask like, could a square circle be red? Like that might sound like a sensible sentence, but that's actually like gibberish because like it's an unreferenceable entity. Like there's nothing in the mental world, which is actually, in my opinion, like the only world that could correspond to that. It would be like asking like a gibberish sentence.
Do you know how I actually like if God exists, like because I'm trying to tie this into like how the precepts use it, like in a way, you know. I know they're different
Yeah,
concepts, but it's
yeah.
almost like
Honestly, my approach with the precepts. This is sort of an argument I've been trying to like get in and like talk to them about because I'm very curious about how they would respond. Um, so say I just sort of grant the case, right? Say I log on one day and I listen to Foxy or Darth or someone, and I go, wow, okay, I guess you're right. I guess I'd like to believe things, and I don't I have any justification for them, and I'd like to know things, and I can't. And I say, oh, how would I know? And they would say, well, funny you should ask. You have to believe in the Trinity. I say, okay, well, now I believe in the Trinity. And they say, okay, cool. Will I see you at church this weekend? And I say, well, why would I go to church? And that's the quote. That bridge there is the one I'm very interested in. Is how they would bridge the gap between mere Trinitarianism and religion, right? Like it might be like this is just the thing, right? It might be that they're right, and in order to think things or whatever, I have to believe in the Trinity. But then I still don't see why I have to believe in heaven, hell, sin, a particular biblical canon, Jesus, all these things. I still feel like they have some burden there. And
yeah.
it might be
No,
that
you're
I
totally
have
right.
to.
You're totally
Yeah,
right,
I don't know.
dude. Yeah, I was the question that I asked that I wanted to ask the precepts is because this is the question, and I want to get back to infinitism just real quick
Yeah,
after we're done
yeah, sure.
because it's a very interesting concept. But it's like the question I always wanted to ask precepts is you know how they say it's like the impossibility of the contrary, like
Yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So it's
yeah.
like it. Have you considered that maybe there's like and then they say God is necessary, right? First of all,
Hmm.
they would have to tell me why God is necessary because I mean I don't think they can prove God is necessary, but even if they could, I would ask, well, is there a alternate religion that explains the same like that has the same metaphysics that answers all the questions that you're asking me that is different from the one you believe? So it's like the impossibility of the contrary. Is there something outside of your cognition that you don't know that might answer all the questions that you're asking? And I think at that point, I mean, I don't know what they would say, but I feel like, I mean, what do you think about that?
Oh shit, I was muted. Yeah, I think you're getting at the same thing. I was getting at like,
Yeah,
I think B3 actually recently tried to argue this point with Darth, like, but Darth's response is interesting. He says, um, you have to present your worldview as actual, so it can't be a hypothetical. In that case, I would probably just fuck with him and say like, oh well, I do believe it. This is my actual worldview. Um, just because I don't really find that to be a very plausible response. But I mean, if we're sort of doxastic voluntarists, we think that like we can choose to believe things, and we can choose to believe this thing in particular. Then yeah, sure. Right now, I do believe that I could choose to believe that the Trinity exists, and I could
right,
then go on to say like, okay, now I believe in the Trinity. I believe in sort of all the things about the Trinity that
right. That's what I was getting at. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I like, is there something besides what you believe, like in terms of Christianity, that
yeah,
answers all the questions that you don't know about? Because
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
they only have knowledge of the things that they know. Obviously, like I mean,
yeah.
whatever.
And the secret here is that none of them are actually very good at getting from theism to Trinitarianism. Like that's actually a big weak point for them. If you've read, I don't expect you to have because this is like incredibly obscure literature. But like the Trinity and the Vindication of Christian Paradox, it's like a book that a lot of the precepts get a lot of stuff from. Um, the argument that gets you from sort of the theism point to the Trinitarianism point is incredibly unstable. Like none of them can defend it properly.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Like, but like, can we like I want you to explain infinitism to me one more
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
so I'm sorry. It's like it's very interesting to me. So when you say it's indubitable, like
Yeah,
it's almost like It's isn't that an axiom at that point if it's indubitable?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of my view. I think a moderate view between infinitism and sort of the more foundationalist approach, because I do have this sort of base point, but the infinitism is to get you around the sort of possible response, which is to say, could you be wrong that it's indubitable, right? So say I say it's indubitable that, well, I don't know, there can't be a square circle, and they say, well, how do you know that? How do you know that it's indubitable that there couldn't be a square circle? And I'd have to say, well, it's indubitable, right? And then if they ask me, well, how do you know that? There is the infinite chain.
Right. That's interesting. So it's
Yeah,
almost like you combine both of them, and it's like you almost made like a one something completely different. This is pretty cool, man.
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a work in progress, obviously. Like I actually I'm not super committed to like the epistemological question, just because I
Right.
don't think that, like, even if I granted the case to the precepts that, like I was saying earlier, that they like could show even Trinitarianism, to be honest, but even if Trinitarianism, like, here's the thing. For one, there are historical trinities before the Bible, right? People have said
Oh,
that
I didn't know
sort of
that.
the concepts that, yeah, that sort of Paul and the New Testament writers present are sort of inspired, not inspired, like wrong word to use in this context, like maybe inspired, yeah.
It's inspired.
Insp-
It's inspired. Yeah, you could say
yeah, yeah, yeah,
inspired.
yeah. Inspired by previous works. So and also, if we want to say, because this is one important difference between sort of orthodox apologetics, like especially Catholic, and the precept approach, is that Orthodox Christians usually, historically, in the vast majority, held that God is noble a priori. So, just by use of reason alone. But the Trinity is not. No one ever said, really, historically, that the Trinity is knowable just by reason. That is revealed. And for good reason, right? It's very difficult to present an argument that just by reason alone gets you to the Trinity. But even if you can, it's sort of a break with history. And also, if that's true, then it isn't surprising that a book would present this God, right? Because if you could get to a concept just by reason alone, then anyone could write a book presenting it, right? So yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, I don't think that Trinitarianism, like that bridge from Trinitarianism to like Christianity, is like I don't know how they would cross it.
Well, they say that, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but and I'll talk to you about something Foxy said before, but
Hmm.
they say that that God is like needs to be relational in
Hmm.
order to like express his love
Yep, yep,
because
yep, yep.
yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So it's like they say like without like being relational to like another being, he couldn't maximize his love or his potential for love because there wasn't a creation. So and for God to be all loving even before creation, he would have to have like a separate being to love, which I mean
Yeah,
that's just what they say. So
yeah. So their understanding of that argument, I am suspicious of, because first of all, that's only kind of getting you from monotheism to biunity, right? So this eternal relation between two things. And then you have to argue for the Holy Spirit. And then you also have to argue there isn't some quadrinity. And you also have to argue, well, just that point alone, that like eternal loving entails sort of biunity. I think that that point is kind of weak. I think that you can probably get away with saying like, oh, well, God could love, I don't know, a future humanity, right? That God could be eternally loving toward, I don't know, loving without. Let me find the book. Actually, I've still got the PDF because that's what actually presents the argument.
they say, and they also say something like there needs to be a witness to this love. I don't know. A lot of weird things. Like so that's where the Trinity comes in. Like the third person of the Trinity, like the Holy
Yeah,
Ghost or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Someone to appreciate the love.
Right, right, something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Which is just
one point.
ridiculous. But anyway,
Yeah, one point here is like, if so, first of all, they want to say that the Bible sort of points toward this, right? And that there's certain Bible verses they use to show that like this is what God was getting at. And second of all, they like to say that this is like, well, no, we don't have to say that. I would just ask, how plausible is it really that no one found out about this for, the vast majority of Christian history? That no one came up with this argument, right? Why would God hide? Because, God has a plan for human history. Why would God have it such that the only argument in their view for God was, not present historically for the vast majority of Christian history?
right,
Like that's very implausible. And how come no one thought to interpret the Bible verses they interpret to entail presuppositionalism in a presuppositional way for 1,000 years? It's very strange.
right. Yeah, you're right. So it isn't but they'll argue that the Bible itself, it talks about the Trinity, and
Well, yeah, they are. I think that point we can let them have. I don't think we have to be Christian Unitarians.
right. Yeah, and it's interesting how you were wrestling between Christianity and Islam, because I've never found Islam to be that like that uh like convincing to me. I mean, I've always found it to
Right.
be almost like an imitation of Christianity, and instead of like something revealed that was you know like something revealed after the Bible or whatever. It's almost
Mhm.
like Mormonism. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I'm not a Christian or a Muslim, but I do think. Well, Islam has fewer problems, like
Right. I was gonna
theologically.
ask you, like, what made it like so difficult to choose between them?
Well, hold on. I actually wrote down all the sorts of considerations. Hold on.
Hey, strong atheist, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Did you just come in from
Good.
politics and religion?
No, no, I can't really talk there. There's too many people, so I've gone on there a few
Hard to get
times.
a word in.
Yeah, exactly. I was just on this thing, Frank Turek's Corner. That's where I go sometimes.
Oh, okay. Are
Yeah,
there
Nice.
are there a lot of theists there, or is it just mostly atheists?
some theists. Yeah, some theists. I'm gonna have a debate with one tomorrow night.
Well,
See
that's
what
cool.
happens. That
Yeah,
yeah,
if you yeah, I'm sorry. If you could link me
uh,
to the Frank Turks, if you could link me so I could listen to your debate, I mean that'd be cool.
oh, sure, sounds good. It's gonna be at 10 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I'll send you a link.
All right, I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
What are you going to be debating on? Just regular like Christianity versus atheism, or what?
Yeah, yeah. Atheism versus theism, and he also is interested in the art talking about um, where morality came from.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
strong atheist? Where does morality come from?
come comes from group dynamics and evolution.
Yeah, that's exactly what I believe too.
Have you read Peter Singer by chance?
No,
He talks a lot about that. Like the expanding circle is the book you'd want to read for that. It's like sort of an evolutionary psychology interpretation of ethics.
cool.
Yeah, he's like that
Sounds
big
good.
vegan philosopher from Australia. He's a very
Oh yeah,
controversial guy, but he's got a very straightforward writing, which is very good for people who, like me, aren't super into the heavy, incomprehensible, like philosopher speak stuff.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To
Go
answer
ahead.
your question,
Yeah, go ahead.
the sort of considerations were the Trinity was a big one. Like the internal consistency. Like, is there a internally consistent theory of the Trinity? I felt as though like the strict monotheism was an easier position to defend. That it was less likely to just be a contradiction, because the Trinity, I don't know that anyone actually has like a coherent conception of the Trinity. Like the only really plausible case is like a Mysterianism. Like it might be an apparent contradiction, but we just can't comprehend it, kind of thing. Another one was sort of the moral law. Like I felt like Islam was, well, at the very least, I disagreed, quote unquote, with Islam's moral law more than Christianity's, and I felt as though like the moral track record of Islam was worse than Christianity's. But then on the other hand, I thought that maybe divine commandment theory made it so that I couldn't really use that as a consideration, because how I felt about sort of God's commandments was irrelevant. So natural law was like a concern of mine, like whether or not that was defensible. The other thing was like I don't know, like the various sort of miniature problems that you can present. Like you might know about like the different narrations of the Quran. You might know about
Right.
like the sort of contradictions in the Quran, maybe with like inheritance laws, the seven sleepers thing. The various contradictions in the Bible. Lots of little things, like lots of little considerations that you can sort of take and ask, like, okay, well, does this make the religion more or less likely?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Yeah. I guess the only problem I would have with Christianity, if I was a Christian and I was doubting my faith and like wanting to go to Islam, would be the Trinity,
Yeah,
because I feel like it's the only thing that's almost unexplainable,
yeah,
and um, it would be very hard to wrap my mind around it. I mean, even now,
yeah.
I have a problem with the Trinity. Like, I don't understand it at all. Like,
I
to
don't
me,
think anyone does.
yeah, it's like polytheism to me. Like,
Yeah.
it
I mean, the other thing would be the hypostatic union, right? Like God being triune and crucified and man, right?
yeah,
God being
exactly.
fully human and fully man. That bit is also, I think, very difficult to create an internally consistent theory for.
Yeah, I agree. So, how did you take philosophy in college, or how did
I
you
took a
learn?
couple philosophy classes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I heard when you came in, you were like, all these guys, all they do is just listen, like parrot what other people say. So I was just wondering if you were like a student of philosophy.
Oh, yeah, that probably came off as a little arrogant. I
No, no,
just
no.
think that these
I was
guys.
just wondering.
Yeah. No, so I took a couple philosophy classes, like a meta ethics course, a sort of more broad ethics and meaning of life, quote unquote course. And there was one other, I think. But anyway, yeah, I used to like to read like SCP articles a lot. Sometimes like books, like the Trinity and the Vindication of Christian Paradox, like that kind of thing. Um, and I do just broadly think that you can tell when someone hasn't done the reading. Just like in university, like I think guys like Barth, especially, I think they're just kind of fucking around. I don't think they really care
Barth?
about like,
I
yeah,
don't think I've heard of
Barthologist.
Barth.
Oh, okay. He's like this New Yorker guy. He like really likes talking. I don't think he like yeah, I don't know. He's got this like incoherent, like but very funny way of speaking.
Dude, it's not worse than Concrete Plus, so I'll tell you that much.
Concrete
that
Plus. You told me he was an open theist and a what
that dude
else?
is like you know what he said today? He said the most like baffling thing I've ever heard. He said God can die. Like he can commit suicide.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, was that sort of in the vein of like can God create a
A rock
a
so heavy
rock
he
so
can't
heavy?
move
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I guess so.
All
I don't
right.
know, dude. I don't know where he was coming from, but
Mm-hmm.
and he was trying to argue it, and everyone's like, "Dude, just lay, just lay off of it. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a good position to take."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah, I think people get confused there because it's a sentence that sounds like it's coherent and sensical, but it's actually just gibberish, right? That actually doesn't refer to anything. There isn't a fact of the matter about that because it's just not a sensical like predicate.
Right. Yeah.
Like there couldn't be such a thing. It's like asking if God can create a square circle, or like
Right.
I don't know. Certain sentences it's more clear that it's just gibberish than others. Like hold on. There's that Noam Chomsky sentence. Do you know that one? Like
What is that one?
let's see. Yeah, colorless green ideas sleep furiously.
Oh yeah. Mr. Badman, he likes to use a version of that, like
Yeah,
pizza flies over the mud, therefore west, something weird like that.
yeah, yeah. It's grammatically correct, but semantically nonsense, and that's correct. Like it's just not a real like it doesn't mean anything. It's
Right.
it's literally gibberish.
So I have a question for you guys. So like I've been thinking about like a lot about like what my beliefs are like in terms of like am I still like agnostic or because I kind of lean towards more like pantheistic at this point, not naturalism.
Hmm.
Like I use the tag naturalistic pantheism just to like because it's what Tom says in his debates, but like
Yeah.
I like the idea of pantheism, like almost like the universe itself is God, and I
Do
feel
you
like go ahead.
sorry, are you inclined toward like panpsychism at all?
To a certain degree, I am. I think, and they probably go hand in hand, right? If you're a
Yeah,
pantheist,
that's why I asked. Yeah.
right, then you're probably going to be panpsychist. And I definitely feel like. So, what do you guys think about like consciousness being fundamental?
I'm actually inclined toward that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
It's like
think
the simplest
consciousness.
and most beautiful view. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think consciousness didn't start till billions of years after the Big Bang.
Hmm.
right.
So do you think like well, how do you think consciousness works? Like do you have a particular view?
It started through evolution, and we developed it for survival purposes, and then we eventually made more of it than that.
Hmm. So how to put this like so do you think there's like a distinction between the mental and the physical?
Only that the mental is the physical if you count the electricity and stuff
Mhm.
going through the brain.
Right. Sure. So they sort of correspond in a way, right? Like there are certain things in your mind that like relate to like if I hit you in the head with a baseball bat, you're probably gonna, your mind's probably gonna change quite a bit. But you know, do you think that like me imagining a tomato right now, like I'm visualizing it in my mind, what I call my mind, and it's not in my room or anything. There's no physical tomato around me. Thankfully, I don't like tomatoes. Do you think that there's like a distinction between those two? Like, do you think they're both physical, or do you think one is like not physical?
Well, it depends if you count that electricity that's going through your mind, then that's real, that's physical. But
Okay, yeah, but there's also a mental thing going on, right?
yes,
Okay,
I agree with that. Now
so
I don't go
yeah,
for the soul kind of
yeah,
idea.
you don't have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the question then would be like, we've got this sort of arrangement of physical stuff, right? Just our brain, and if we change the arrangement, different mental stuff is going on. But presumably, you don't think that other arrangements of physical stuff, like your chair, I presume you're sitting on a chair, like you don't think that
Well,
generates mental stuff, right?
may make me think of the chair itself.
Right, sure, but you don't think the chair is experiencing anything mentally like you're experiencing mental stuff right now.
Correct.
Okay.
You need a mind, a
So
brain.
I guess the I don't know what the adjective here is. The thing to point out would be like why does certain like physical relations just create this completely distinct thing like the mental, and why do certain other physical relations not, right? Like why is it that certain sort of chemical and electric physical stuff in a certain arrangement so sort of creates this completely separate thing, the mental world, and others don't, right? Like that seems like just something weird.
Well, I think it would be based on, evolution, evolution and survival. That's what it and now I've heard some strange things like some plants react to things and stuff like that, but I'm a big believer in the survival of concepts through evolution over long periods of time, and it took billions of years so we could have a mind that could think like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I pondered that idea as well, and the biggest issue with me was like explaining like the rise of consciousness, like where it came from. I guess that was like the biggest problem that I had, like a problem answering that question. So so anyway.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's possible, strong atheist, that like the same sorts of physical arrangements could exist, right? Like the ones in your head, and there'd be no mental, right? Like just no mental at all in the entire world.
Hi, Frank. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Still alive. Hang out on the server for a little bit. See what the hell's going on? Yeah, pinged us.
I Yeah, sure, I believe that. I mean, people didn't always exist. So
Right.
before,
Right.
yeah,
No, and I mean like people exist, right? Like the physical arrangements that we call people, right? Like I don't mean to be creepy, but like, flesh and bones and brain stuff. But there's no mental, right? There's nothing like there might be the chemical and electric things going on that are associated with me, like picturing a tomato, but I don't actually have the experience of seeing a tomato. Like there's no mental world.
right. But you have seen a tomato in the past to know what it looks like, and that gave you the idea
Right.
for it.
Right. Sure. Okay.
What are you trying to figure out?
We're talking about like panpsychism.
Say it again.
Panpsychism. So the idea that consciousness is like fundamental.
Yeah,
Okay.
which I'm wrestling with right now. So it's just like the concept is almost like I believe like that we came from like a natural beginning, but I feel like the natural beginning had some sort of like consciousness. Now, I'm not sure if it's a mind, but I feel like it
Hmm.
had some sort of like awareness or something.
Panpsychism seems to be a solution to a problem, that doesn't exist, right? Like it seems to be like proposing a hypothesis that, we don't have a problem to explain this right now. So panpsychism is making an assertion that consciousness is fundamental when there's no need to do that. Like there's no need to believe that consciousness is fundamental. There's no need for that. Like we have perfectly naturalistic, explicable explanations for emergent consciousness, or even
Yeah,
the fact that
yeah.
consciousness is not even really a thing. It's an illusionary concept because, like if
Well,
you really talk about the self and how we experience consciousness is really just cause and effect mechanisms.
yeah,
And what you perceive it as a continuation of your consciousness is not really something that's fundamental. It's just a physical system
yeah.
that's perpetuating
With all my
itself.
research on the human nervous system and brain, I found that consciousness is nothing more than the emergent properties of the brain in question, and maybe something to do with also the nervous system, but mostly the brain. It is initiated upon the point when the brain becomes developed enough to actually start operating. That's when your point of start is for your consciousness. So basically, when you're an infant,
Right.
just before you're born is when it's finally actually
Well, I mean,
just
I
turning
like
on.
the concept. I like the concept that there isn't actually a thing that actually begins, right? It's just something that we as human beings use a heuristic word to describe a process that there's no real
Yeah.
beginning to, that doesn't really exist. So people like Patricia Churchland and Daniel Dennett have an eliminativist view of consciousness that I think is completely valid. And until you can actually falsify that and say, oh, that's absolutely not possibly to be true, in my opinion, that's actually very compelling. that
Yeah.
there is absolutely no such thing as a fundamental consciousness. And
Right.
something
There is
like
nothing like that.
panpsychism just proposes something that's just
Huh?
absurd. Like, why do we need that? It just makes no sense.
Yeah,
We
but
could see where
Yeah,
the evolution like started having eyes where we were reacting to light and dark for survival, and then you kind of need a brain to interpret that.
No, you don't. Oh, no, you don't.
No.
Nope.
Okay, it seems
Just
like if you
part-
want to interpret that for survival,
If you go back to the small that does have rudimentary sight, actually, some of those animals do not have a brain. All they've got is a nervous system.
And plants do the same thing, and they don't have brains.
Yep. But they don't have a brain and they don't have a conscience.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
they do kind of have a reactionary system,
Right.
which will cause a leaf to curl, or in the case of the VTP, the thing will actually close right up.
That's the argument panpsychists make, because they say that the way an electron is like, okay, it's a very fundamental particle that has only like a couple of properties, like the
Well, we've only known about
spin-
that in the last 500-600 years. What
right,
electrons are.
but their argument is that the limited interaction between an electron, like the very base, right, the two properties an electron has, and the interaction an electron has, is what they would consider consciousness. That if when something interacts with something else, they're redefining consciousness as basically interaction, which in my opinion is just redefining what consciousness means, which I think is nonsensical. There's no need to do that.
Well, a mouse is actually conscious. A mouse is actually conscious. Fully conscious. It's fully aware of its surroundings. It's conscious of what's going on around it and to it. Even a friggin' just insects, that would be when you might get down to the point where they might be nothing more than just a reactor. Nothing more than like a computer.
Well, what do
We
we
have to
value?
really get down to insect world. And not
What do
all
we
insects.
value? What do we value when you talk about consciousness, right? Because interaction is not the only thing. Because like we've already agreed on, like plants have reactions in terms of
Reactions,
facing the
but
sun.
not conscious.
No, right, but it needs to go beyond reactions. Like, I mean, I think when people talk about consciousness, they refer to like maybe emotions, maybe like pain, maybe suffering, maybe things that
That's
requires a
all
mind.
higher level thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's interpretation. It's different than just reacting to the sunlight. It's being able to interpret the sunlight.
Well, you don't have to interpret sunlight.
but have you
A
guys ever?
mollusk can
I'm sorry.
interpret the
But they're all
sunlight to the point to
reactions,
know what
right?
it is to react to it. Not know it.
Even the way human beings interpret sunlight, it's just a reaction. But the
Yeah, it's just a
fact
simple
that
reaction. We look
the
up,
fact-
it's hot
right.
and warm.
I mean, the mysterious aspect is that the human brain is so complex. It's literally the most complex structure we know in the universe right now.
It's not the
that's what
most
makes it
complex structure in the universe, but
what other structure do we know that's more complex than the human brain?
the actual cosmos is far more complex.
The entire cosmos is actually very simple in terms of the explanatory scope. Like,
Simple
it's literally,
in one aspect, yes.
it's a
The
few
human brain is
forces.
simple too.
It's a few
It's a bunch
forces
of cells.
interacting. Yeah, it's literally a few forces interacting with each other.
But it does create very complex interactions. It's not thinking, but it is structurally very complex the way it's.
Well,
way
so
it is.
okay, so
That's
for
what I meant
example,
by
like,
complex.
right. So within the universe, like stars
Yeah.
are very simple, planets are simple, solar systems are simple, galaxies are simple. The human brain is, in terms of a structure, is more complex than any of those things. But I don't think that's mysterious. That's
Nope, not a bit.
but it's complex to explain, and I don't think human beings should say just because it's complex, it's mysterious. It's not. It's just complex. That's all it is.
And all the instructions and all the genetic instructions. I can't talk right tonight. The fucking brain is dead. All the genetic instructions required to create that brain and the rest of the body can be held on a single CD-ROM.
Yep.
Human is on a CD-ROM. The difference is might be an MP3 or two. The difference is from you to me. Might be a couple MP3s.
Well, I mean, the difference is we are part of a system, right? So we're not just individuals. We are part of our environment. We're part of the universe. We're part of the system that interacts, and the interactions are what are
Yeah.
complex. But
Yeah.
like you said, like if you're just going to take our own, DNA, you could put that on a CD-ROM, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the emergent complexity that makes us more complex.
Right. Yeah.
Like how to make a memory chip, it's very simple to make one memory chip, but then you add 1,000 of them together. That's what basically your brain is. It's you got instruction. Make this. This is a synapse. Here's how it goes together. This is what you do to make a synapse. Now add 6 billion of them to it. That's what makes us complex. It's not the complexity of the individual parts. It's how they're all connected together. Which, over your lifespan, those connections are made, broken, and remade, and made stronger, and multiplied sometimes. That's experiences. That's what makes the connections. Your interaction with your mother when you're a baby will make some kind of a connection in your mind to make you bond to your mother, which when you're born, you're not bonded to your mother. If I was to take you as a newborn, like minutes old, newborn, from your mother, walk over to a random woman, pass you to that woman, and then let it run as if it's her baby, you'll bond to her, and that's your mother, as far as you're concerned. You don't genetically know. So everything is really tied to your experiences of what you really are. And expect to get the same thing. It's not going to happen.
So, but what do you guys think about like you know how there's experiments where they'll play music to certain plants, and then they'll play like heavy metal for one plant, and then they'll play like classical music for the other plant, and then they'll grow depending on the music that they played for them. They'll grow in like different ways. Like one will be less, like one will look nicer or better than the other one. So, where do you think like that? Is that like a form of consciousness or?
I mean, that has been proven to be false. I mean, those
Yeah,
experiments.
because I
And
set
also,
up my
yeah, it's the same with like the water, like
Yeah.
the water memory, like all these bullshit,
Yeah,
like
that's all bullshit.
scientific theories. So water memory, plants
Yeah,
reacting to
I've seen
music.
that
It's
one
all
too.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I set up 54 identical, well, as identical could be, plants, right? A 54 channel audio system so that no box could hear any other box, right? They all had like about a 3-watt audio amp going into each. Because I was kind of curious about that. And I ran the experiments with 54 different kinds of music, ranging from opera to death metal. And there's plants all came out exactly the same. And I ran this for 2 years. But why not? Everything was identical, but what was playing through the speakers.
But okay,
Same plants, same animals, same speakers, same amplifiers, same audio players. Because I won a case of 100 identical MP3 players. So everything was identical, except for the music that was on it. Same settings, did everything, matched. Yes, 3-watt amps in 2010 were still only a couple bucks a piece, $3 a piece for a power chip. It made 3 watts. That's all it takes, just gentle music. You're supposed to use like gentle volumes. It's one of the glories of owning hundreds of audio devices. I can do these experiments.
So when does okay, I'll ask this question. So when does consciousness arise though? Like at what point in the evolutionary like lineage did it go from being did we go from being like normal apes?
That's a bad question.
The consciousness arrived.
Why is it a bad question though?
When we were probably over 400 or 500 cells. When life was over 400 or 500 cells as a complete animal or creature, that's probably when it happened. when there was enough cells to create at least a few neurons of a rudimentary brain, it would have been to some degree conscious of its surroundings, to the point where if it thought it was being, if you can call it thought, if it sensed it was being engulfed by something else, it would dodge. That's consciousness.
But isn't that true of like
I'd,
protozoas?
I'd say it's a bad question in the same way asking
It is.
who's the first
It is a
human
very
being.
dangerous question, but I tried to answer it.
Right.
Yeah, it's like asking who was the first human being, right? Like, I mean, it makes no sense to ask that. There was no first human
Eukaryote.
being. Yeah.
A eukaryote, a few cells clumped together.
Yeah.
That's the first human being. Would be the eukaryotes.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's not what we define as humans, right? Now you care.
No, but if you really want to get back to the beginning of our lineage, it's basically some kind of a eukaryote type thing, which is pretty much a microscopic life form.
Right.
And then it just slowly evolved
Well,
from there over the next few billion years. I know, I'm atheist, so I don't see any magic.
Yeah.
I've lost the ability to see that magic.
Yeah, but right, and the way we differentiate between like humans and Neanderthals and Australopithecus and like apes and old world monkeys, like these are kind of like socially constructed like heuristic ways we talk about things. There wasn't a first ape. There's never a first ape. There's never a first monkey. There's never a first human. Like it's just a species that eventually by with continental like with all these different variables like species and eventually, and we called now it's a different species, but there wasn't a first human being. In the same way, I don't think consciousness ever went from here's an organism without consciousness that gave birth to an organism with consciousness. That never happened. It's kind of way we describe just particles interacting with one another in a very complex system. Like eventually we think, here are entities that have consciousness, but I don't think consciousness is really a thing. It's just a way we describe like very complex systems interacting with each other.
Which server am I on?
This is TJump.
That's pretty fucking bad. I forgot what server I was on. TJump. I don't pay attention to what server I'm on sometimes. If I get into a conversation, I'll actually forget where I am.
That's cool.
Well, I was off in another voice chat while I was text chat while I was talking to you. I forgot where I was.
I saw you on the politics and religion server. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And I still enjoy going on that server.
It's alright, but there's so many people there. It's a zoo.
It gets a little trafficy. It's not that bad.
Right.
I'm used to 50 people. I'm on a flat Earth server too.
Flat Earth. Hey, if you could link me a Flat Earth server, I would love to join it.
Who is it?
Politics has everything. It's a choose your own adventure. You can have flat Earth
you go in through
mine.
mine. If you want to leave my server, go ahead. Go into the partner servers, third room down from the top. There's a 24/7 flat. There's 24/7 Flat Earth Discord 2.0. You got it's a permalink in the gotta catch them all. Or I mean partner servers, third room down, or fourth room down.
Got it.
I'll give you a widget. If you want to stay, stay. If you don't. Whatever.
I would love to be
on widget. You got widget. You're actually talking my voice chats and turn your camera on.
All right, cool.
I don't know if you'll stay or not, but whatever. Yeah, people seem.
I would love to just join it just to see what's going on, because Flat Earth is very interesting to me. I mean, very interesting.
Did you find it?
No, really? I'm not looking for it right now. I'll look for it after we're done, because I'm recording.
In what way is Flat Earth interesting?
Yeah.
How is it? It's interesting how people believe it. I don't know, man. and the ways they come up, like the different like scientific, not scientific, pseudoscientific way they come up with, like defending it.
Yeah. Well, it's just above the bar and lounge, just below Tiny Captain.
Got it.
Find it.
Well, it seems to me flat Earth is just a bunch of grifters and a bunch of people.
Oh, they're a bunch
that are,
of. It's mostly.
no,
idiots.
like no, but like apart from grifters, there are people that are possibly mentally ill. So I don't find that interesting, or like, why would you debate a grifter or someone that might be like schizophrenic or something? Like you would not want to deal with that. So like, why would anyone find that interesting? Like it's not like a very like intelligent debate. It's literally like A, you have a grifter which just exploits people, and B, someone that's mentally ill. Like you don't have anyone that's actually rationally minded that believes in flat Earth. That does not happen ever.
Right. Well,
So
you got.
I don't
I would say
argue.
you got some smart people that pretend they believe in flat Earth to con the actual flirts.
Yeah, those are the grifters. So why would you want to debate a grifter? Like a grifter's
Then you
just
got.
really snake oil salesman.
I can bet you that there's several thousand globe earthers on there as well.
Oh, that's cool.
They're on there for the entertainment.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
That's
It's
why
just
I'm on
entertaining to me, It's like it's funny. So
safety blanket for you on that server. My best safety blanket for you on that server is when you go into the entry. You'll see there's a room where you got to go, in a voice chat, you got to go into and talk to one of the admin and explain to them why you're there, and you say you're kind of interested in the flat Earth, you're kind of on the fence whether it's accurate or not. You know what I mean? You got to give an impression that you are globe Earth, but you're kind of looking at flat Earth as if maybe there's something to this. Like give the impression that you're kind of thinking about it a little bit,
right.
and that you're kind of on the fence. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like grease them up to the point. They see things. Maybe this guy just might switch over to flat Earth. You're hoping basically for an on the fence role. If that's the role, they'll leave you the fuck alone. They won't actually bug you nearly as much.
Another thing about
That's why I
flat
got
Earth,
that role. That's why I have the role on the fence.
right? You,
There's
you,
no way in hell I would think that anything to do with flat Earth is even fucking remotely right. But I've got the role on the fence on purpose.
right,
If you take globe earther, they're gonna bug the fuck out of you. And if
right.
you take flat earther, they're all gonna fucking come on. It's a pain in the ass. Fence is where to be.
So, Underjoyed, what do you think about? I've heard you ask Tom questions about his morality. What do you think about Tom's morality, and what's your opinion on like? Are you a objectivist, subjectivist, or what's your opinion?
I think it's very nuanced in terms of subjective and objective, and I think Tom like having like a really like an objective morality that he's really like I don't agree with that. I think his objective morality kind of yes not yeah in my opinion it's not that interesting. I mean like I a really interesting debate is when um hello.
Yeah, you're there. I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, I stopped talking too because I was just looking at the messages in CS Helpline text channel.
Anyway, what were you saying, Underjoyed? Are you there, brother? Oh, he must have cut out.
You're a atheist or whatever you want to call yourself. You want a link to that place?
Me?
Yeah,
The flat Earth?
yeah.
No, thank you.
Or do you at least want to look around my server, which is not a flat Earth server?
And what's that?
My Glass Monster server. If you want to just look around, it's a general purpose mess.
Okay, you can send me a link. I'll try it. Thank you.
I'm definitely interested in Strong Atheist's debate tomorrow, though. That's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I wanted to speak with you about what we were speaking of earlier about the first humans. I had heard that described pretty articulately that it was a
Yeah, there
gradual
was no first
process.
humans.
Right.
Yeah,
What's that?
Yeah, there was no first human yet. Technically,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was. Very,
Well,
very
That makes sense. I mean, that makes sense.
But I heard it described as a gradual process. Like, when did you become old?
Yeah,
Right, right.
absolutely.
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah, it's a slow process
yeah.
over whatever amount of time you happen to decide to actually live. But the same with the becoming human from slime mold is no different than say I got a Lego house built with 10,000 red bricks, and over the course of time, once a day I replace one brick with blue bricks, and I just do that over the course of time.
Well, I mean, that's just the
You know what I mean?
ship of Theseus, right?
No, but I'm just saying it's that's my way of understanding it. Simple is that you look at the house one day and someone else looks at it a week later, they're not going to really see much difference because you're only changing one brick a day and there's 10,000 pieces. And over the next, and someone might look at it 3 days later after the last time you look at it, and you might notice one of the bricks was changed. So it's just a slight change. Hard to notice, really, unless you're really looking at it. And that just takes place over time. And eventually, 10,000 days later, you got a blue house.
Right.
And that's how evolution works. It's not, a squirrel giving birth to a mouse.
I believe we can pretty much see the whole process of evolution in the embryo. We start out as two cells.
No. That's kind of might make you think that way, but if you really study the actual evolutionary trees, if you can actually think of a bush.
Oh, I know it's not exact, but it's an accelerated, exaggerated way to look at it because we're starting out as two cells and they're combining and getting more complex all the time. We can actually see, though, in the embryo that we've had webbed fingers, webbed toes, a tail. Some people are actually born with a tail still.
That's true.
Well, no, we're all born with we all have a tailbone, right? Like,
but some people are born with an actual tail still.
Yep. Want to see it?
No.
No, I'm good.
No, I mean a tail, an actual human tail.
No, sure, no, absolutely.
I'm not going to show you my ass. But if I did, you'd see an actual tail.
Right.
But I got to go now. Nice talking to you guys. Take good care.
Yeah, you be good. Don't do anything I would do unless she's cute.
Yeah, thanks.
If she is cute, do her twice.
Okay.
Once for me. Yeah, once for me, once for someone else in this room.
Oh, yeah, I'm a happily married man, but no problem. Take good care.
Just don't tell your wife.
Right, no.
Take care,
I'd be a smartass. Sorry about that. I have to be a smartass.
Yeah.
So what are you up to, Doc?
Not much.
Another mod. Yeah.
Chilling, man. Trying to figure this. Go ahead.
I said me with only one role, atheist.
I got you. Yeah.
The green one looks nice, but oops. There's a reaction from somebody.
Yeah, I've wrestled with my ideas for a long time. I mean, because I just I just have a problem like squaring some circles. I guess you could say.
Well, there's two things that can't. That's two words that definitely can't describe the same object.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what do you get if you got a cylinder 2 inches in diameter and 2 inches long?
I don't know. What do you get?
A square circle.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know.
Look at the cylinder from the end. What do you got?
Yeah. Circle.
And when you look at a cylinder, it's right perfectly square sideways, right straight onto the side, so you don't see the ends. You just see the side view.
Yeah, square or rectangle.
Kind of a square. As I said, 2 inches diameter and 2 inches long. So from the right angle, it would actually look like a square. If you look at it from the end, it's a circle. So there's your square circle.
Mhm.
We just broke the laws of physics with the cylinder.
No, you wouldn't, right? It would just be part of mathematics, right? Like Flatland actually made that kind of descriptive argument, right? Like in terms of people perceiving things in higher dimensions, right?
Obviously, what I was saying is complete.
No. I under
Being a fucking smart
obviously,
ass.
No,
Being a
I
fucking
understand.
bullshitter. Fuck with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking like that once to one of the flat earthers. And he's saying, and you could hear him, oh, yeah. Wow. Holy shit. And I thought, wow. Holy fuck. A week later, I was on a channel where he was in. He didn't know it was me because I was in as a sock. And he was describing this cylinder. And like he took it right a fucking board.
See,
You tell me flat earthers aren't stupid.
That's why I find him interesting, because I just don't understand how anyone could be like deceived into believing something so stupid. Like,
yeah, because I was talking to him. I was using one of my flat Earth counterparts. One of my flat Earth admins, to be exact. And I was talking, this makes sense as a square. I was talking about it with him as a flat earther, and I had him convinced that square circles were fucking the thing. Inadvertently. That was 2 years ago.
So, Underjoyed, what were you saying before about what would be an interesting debate?
Regarding what?
You said something would be an interesting debate, and because I was asking you about Tom's morality, you said it's uninteresting.
Oh no! Oh right. Like I think, like in terms of his objective morality, like I think Noam Chomsky made a really good point when he debated Michel Foucault. Like he commented on that debate and talked about that. That it came down to a definition, like what is objective, what is subjective, and obviously, there's a lot of parts of her morality that is subjective, but in terms of the objective truth of morality, that can, certain parts of that cannot be denied. So you end up being in a kind of semantic argument. So I think you get to the point when you argue with Tom that might get to that point, but I think Tom has a stronger argument that he thinks that objective morality can be testable, that it's an actual thing, like in terms of imposition of will is like an objective truth of reality, and I disagree with that, but because I think his entire concept of imposition of will is actually nonsensical in light of determinism, and he believes in determinism. So I think if you're able to square his view of morality with determinism, I don't think he's able to do that, and I don't think he's ever been able to make an argument where he's able to square his understanding of objective morality as imposition of will with determinism. I don't think he was ever able to do that, and I think Noam Chomsky actually made that argument in his uh, debate with Michel Foucault. But I don't know. Like I disagree with TJump in a lot of ways, but I think he's very philosophically competent. He's very intelligent, but in terms of his objective morality, I completely disagree with that interpretation.
Yeah. Or what other things do you disagree with him on?
I mean, I think his politics are pretty terrible, but
Hey, he's still fun to talk to, though.
yeah. I mean, no, I love watching TJ, but I don't think he's a bad guy. But
As
just
a
because I
human,
disagree with him, I don't think he's the bad dude. Like,
oh, yeah, you're not the.
I mean, I actually agree with him on a lot of things. So,
Yeah.
in terms of his, in terms of his epistemological, like when he talks to theists in his epistemology, like his, cogito ergo sum, I think that is very intelligent. Like, I think he's very right on that. Like, in terms of arguing with theists in terms of the cosmological argument, the different arguments for theism. I think he's on point. I think he's completely correct on those things. So, I do agree with TJump on a lot of things. So,
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I like his epistemology as well. So, but what was it about his I mean, do you not agree with I got to like this is just another question, but do you agree with some of his social issue like some of his debates about social issues like the super straight debate or the
yeah, yeah, I really disagree on his like takes on trans issues, like race being socially constructed concept, like when he debated Vosh on is race a social construct or an objective truth, like, or an objective part of science, things like that. Like, I definitely disagree with him, and I think like Vosh made really good arguments why that's not the case, and I think TJump faltered on a lot of these issues. Like things like super straight, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. Like and he takes a lot of arguments like he makes arguments that the woke the woke ideology, all this stuff. I think he has a very emotional kind of take on that I don't think is as objective as his epistemology against the religious and theistic arguments.
right. And maybe he should stick to like debating theists instead of you know. But I don't know. Maybe some of I like the super straight debate. I mean personally, I just think people take words too seriously. That's just my opinion on it. Uh,
They're humans. What do you expect?
yeah. I mean,
All of them are.
I've never felt like any words could hurt me that bad. Like so. I don't know.
Is the phrase "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me"?
Right. And I respect people's opinions of like what they should be called. Like if a trans woman were to tell me I want to be called a woman, I would definitely like call her a woman just to respect her viewpoint, whether I agree with it or not. So
Hey man, I just think the only difference between a straight college student and a gay person is like a six pack of beer. So I think it's such a spectrum
Say that
that
again.
like when you're in college, like the difference between straight and gay is a six pack of beer. So like
Why do you say that?
okay, so my argument is that a lot of kind of ideas about your sexuality and your about who you want as a partner are always on a spectrum. So I find it faulty to ever think that anybody that makes a definitive statement about, like super straight or like, I'll never like if someone hates Star Wars, I would never date someone that hates Star Wars. In my opinion, that's the exact same thing as like someone that's uh, trans, someone that's anything else. Because I think that if there's enough factors that outweigh what you find as negative, I think anyone would find that more attractive. So I think um, to make a definitive statement that you for sure, like, I would never be attracted to someone that's black. I absolutely agree that's completely racist because I don't think anyone would find that like rational to claim before they experience it. So when you talk about attraction and being part of a relationship, being part of a friendship, to say that I could never be friends with someone that's black, I could never marry someone that's black, I could never have sex with someone that's black, I think it's completely nonsensical because people have like kind of wants, beliefs that they're not in control of that are on a spectrum, and you could always find an exception to the rule, always.
yeah, you're right.
Nice.
I bet I could find anybody that thinks they're super straight an exception to the rule that they would never want to be in a relationship with someone that's trans. Like, I just find that a bullshit argument. So that's my argument against super straight. And I think T Jump's argument is just bullshit.
What about say want an interesting situation? See what you think. I don't break your brain.
Go for it.
Take a situation where you're at a bar. Okay, you meet this woman, and you're really enjoying talking to her, and you decide you're gonna take her out on the town, and get down get down, have fun, shag her that evening, just for the lulls of it, right? She's down with it, you're down with it. You get her back to the apartment, and you find out, well, she got the same equipment you do. Would you go through with something that she's willing to do or not?
I mean, personally, I wouldn't. Underjoy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that hypothetical is kind of like an argument that, like, you think that's an argument for super straight, but I do not. I think the argument is not like, if you're gonna, hire a prostitute or take someone home, like, from a nightclub, or, just in a consensual relationship and just want to have sex with them. I don't think to say that, if you take someone home and they have the same, like, if you see like a trans woman that has a penis, like, you don't find that sexually attractive. I don't think that's the argument that super straight makes, right? Like, I think that's, I don't think that's the argument. I think the argument would be that if you can find an ideal partner that, everything you find about that person attractive and compatible, and you're willing to make that commitment.
Yeah.
And the only reason why you'd find that commitment unacceptable is because that person has, like, different genitalia.
What I was going to say
Even
is
though you
that
don't find that, even though you, okay, hold on one sec. Even though you don't find that, like, physiologically disgusting, right? So if you don't have an innate reaction of disgust, but you say that, I don't want a relationship with that person just based on an ideology, maybe a religious ideology or something like that, I do think that is bigoted.
what I was going to say is that I know it's a one night stand. She or he is willing. It's one night. You're just doing it for the hell of it. It's just have a fun night out that night. I would probably go through it.
I would personally. I just want to steel man someone that wouldn't. But, like, personally, I have, I'm a straight person.
Mhm.
I've been to gay clubs. I have kissed, people that were like even transvestites, like, not necessarily trans, and trans people, like, on the dance floor. But yeah, I consider myself 100% heterosexual. So, like, this is why I find these kind of definitions and strict kind of, like, delineations kind of a little bit nonsensical. Like, I don't know.
So, God
Yeah,
forbid. So you said you would do it?
it's a one night stand. Both of us were, having a good time right up until that second. I'd probably just fuck it, roll over, dear.
But like, okay, so here's the argument. Like, why do you find that attractive? Because I do think there's a lot of trans people and even transvestites that are actually appealing to a lot of heterosexual people,
No, I
because they
agree.
present. Because why? Because they present themselves as very female.
Right.
So you can be 100% straight and be attracted to a trans or like transvestite. So that's completely logical.
It's logical. I don't disagree. I watched a show on the internet. I don't remember what it's called, but it was there was a trans girl on there, and I found her very attractive to me, And she was with a straight guy and everything, and so I mean, I don't know if I would, but I would have a problem. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just like an instinct that I have, but I would have a problem if like they're like if to date a trans woman or anything like that. Like, it would be kind of weird for me. I don't know.
But it's always more than looks, isn't it? It's never just looks. If you ever marry someone, like is anyone here married or in a relationship with a girlfriend? Like it's never just about looks. So you have a entire compatibility spectrum, and just like if someone identifies as male or female, or their looks, if they present as female, is just one aspect, right? It's always about like, hey man, we like the same movies, we like the same like music, we like to go out on hikes, we like to do a lot of things together, and all these things count. And I think people really miss that boat, right? Like, they think it's all about looks or physical attraction. It's always a lot about psychological attraction as well.
To be honest,
Yeah.
though, even though I would have like a problem with it, maybe at the same time, though, if I were to meet a trans woman that I found like somewhat attractive, because there has to be like an attraction factor there, and we related, I don't know, maybe I would date her. I mean, it's difficult to pinpoint, I guess.
At least you could admit the fact that you don't know, right? You can't say for sure that you never do it. You just
Yeah,
don't know, and that's very odd.
that's the challenge in that type of a thing that I was describing, is because you're having a great time. You've been sitting there at that bar with her for about the last 6 hours, and you're both, kind of drunk, probably a little bit. Maybe you've had a little weed, a few extra cigarettes if you're a cigarette smoker.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you're just feeling good, you decide, that's what I meant. Like, you get back and it's like, oh.
But that's the difference. Super Street, like TJump, says that they would never under any circumstance, which I disagree with. I think everyone has a circumstance that could they could be presented that they would be fine with any other. Yeah.
I'm just as fucking straight as TJump's probably is, but
you never know. You never know.
But it's just I look at it, it's just chilly. It's a one night thing. It's they're willing to do it. They willing to experience the pain of 2.5 inches in diameter and 7.5 inches long. But they're willing to accept that punishment. So be it.
Yeah.
I definitely would take a shower immediately afterwards to
take a shower,
to wash the schlong, get it all washed off after that. You never know until you've tried it. And that happened to me once at 19.
Yeah, it's happened to me too, and it's actually been pretty clean. Surprisingly, I was like shocked how clean it was.
They were completely clean.
Yeah, it's actually
I don't know what the hell
like,
they do.
You think it was,
but she went in the bathroom.
I don't think they do anything. Yeah, I don't.
She went in the bathroom, prepped herself, did something, heard the flush, came back out, and
it's clean. It's magic.
Proceeded to have the procedure. And she'd done it before.
I guess part of my inhibition would be maybe like a leftover from my Christian roots. For some reason I have a problem with that.
But when you're in that situation, you're not thinking rationally. You have emotional response, right? So if you're in a situation where you're in a kind of a situation with a trans person, you don't know they're trans, you have a really great moment, you end up in a relationship, you end up kissing him, you end up being like, this is my soulmate, and after that entire emotional revelation, you find out that, oh man, they have the same genitalia I do. Like, it's hard to predict what your response would be, in my opinion, regardless of your religious ideology. Like, I think you'd be conflicted.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
I'm actually personally saying that if you weren't conflicted, or you weren't even remotely thinking of, maybe you should try it. If you weren't even remotely that, there is something fucking wrong with you.
Right. Yeah, you know what?
You don't have to sit there and stare at it. You know what I mean? You just go in the back door.
I'm gonna go to a gay bar tomorrow and try it out. But let's do it.
I know you aren't. I know you won't. Would you? No way in hell.
Yeah.
You might go to a gay bar and talk to a few, but I can guarantee you,
I mean, yeah,
not intentionally.
honestly, gay bars are the most friendliest bar. Like, if you want to go to the most chill bar where you're comfortable that you're not gonna be in a bar fight or have a bunch of toxic masculinity, go to a gay bar. Like, it's the friendliest, best fucking hangout spot, even if you're heterosexual.
I've never been to a gay bar. I would definitely try it out just to see the environment, you know?
But it probably does make you kind of nervous just thinking about, yeah, you're both equipped the same, but, she's willing.
But God, he got that back door though.
She's willing,
Yeah.
And
Yes. Even 30 odd years later, I can still remember. She screamed.
That's pretty good. But then again, at the same time,
it was said that fucking hurt. That get it? That fucking hurt.
but can I? But at the same time, if it's like I don't know, it's like if you were to find your soulmate in this situation, right? Is it possible that maybe you could find your soulmate in like a regular situation? So wouldn't you be like, maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place? You know? What do you guys think about
Where
that?
are you looking right now? That's wrong.
No, no, no. I'm not saying I'm looking. I'm saying if I were looking for
But you get what I was getting at. You just don't know.
right.
You know what I mean? You're hanging out there. You just don't know. Some of them are pretty damn convincing, even back in the fucking late '90s, early '90s, even.
The point is, why worry about it? Just talk to people and
I just exposed
enjoy
how
people.
old I was.
Yeah, enjoy
How
people you
old
like.
I am. That I was old enough to think about that stuff and old enough to do it legally. And we're talking like the beginning of the '90s. It tells you just how old I am.
I think part of the problem is social pressures too. Like we're pressured as men, we're pressured to be a certain way and have a certain lifestyle, and anything that veers away from that perspective is kind of strange to us. At least in my opinion. But God 420 got down though. He didn't care.
Well, I wasn't even 20 at the time it happened. I was under 20 when that happened. So I was young and stupid. He was willing. Still straight, but fuck.
So Underjoyed, what do you think about the race realist thing? Like what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's a bit ridiculous.
Hello, Brian.
No, Grandmaster Brian's in here, he hasn't talked.
Hi, Brian. How you doing, dear? Are you having fun?
He's probably busy. But anyway, what do you think about the race realist thing? Do you agree with it? Disagree with it?
That's completely stupid.
there's one race, the human race.
Well, I mean, like, we have species. That's an objective, kind of like a differentiating, methodology. But so we're all humans as part of a species, and race is completely arbitrary because skin color. Okay, skin color takes the exact same amount of genetic modification as eye color. So instead of just seeing people as black and white, we could say, there's the green-eyed people, brown-eyed people, brown-eyed people. So I mean, like, why do we use skin color? Because it's the most visual. But like, to use skin color as a determining factor of race, like, it's completely socially constructed. It's race is not an objective thing. Like it's, I don't know how anyone could argue that. Like,
But isn't it also biological to a certain degree? Like,
no, but in the same way, different eye colors are biological. But we
yeah.
wouldn't like distinguish different races upon different eye color, different, like the race of bald people, the race of people with hair, like the race of green-eyed people, the race of brown-eyed people. Like we wouldn't say that. So why do we say that races are important in terms of skin color? It's the exact same thing. Yes, it is a biological, but it's completely arbitrary.
Right, right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I've always kind of looked at race kind of like that as well, like a social construct and everything. You know, I don't. I think like God 420 said, we're all the same race. We're the human race. So
Yeah. What the fuck's the difference from one to the other?
but you know what, Underjoyed, I agree with
Pigment.
what you
Hi.
were saying before, like about like how some people would be like, um, oh, I would never date a black person or whatever, or I would never be friends with a black person, but they would always find that exception in the rule. You know, I
Yeah,
agree with
because you could have a different argument instead of a black person or trans person. You're gonna say you could say I would never date someone that hated Star Wars because I'm a big Star Wars fan. But there's so many things you can imagine that you'd never date someone for a specific reason, but it's always outweighed by other factors, right? So your compatibility with someone, you can never say there's one exclusionary factor. No one could say that, and to say that skin color or like gender or like anything else is a determining factor, it's completely arbitrary to make that distinction because you don't know that. There could be enough factors that outweigh your biases, and you can never predict them. That's my point. You couldn't predict that. You might be susceptible to be attracted to someone that right now you think you'd never be attracted to. And I think TJump, as a naturalist, makes just such a bad mistake when he doesn't realize that.
right. Hey, Heavenly, how you doing? Can't hear you.
Hey, what's up?
Hi,
Hey,
Heavenly. How you doing?
What's up, God?
You recognize it. On this server. I thought they'd ban you by now.
Wait, what's up?
I said I thought they would have banned you from here by now.
Oh no. I'm unbannable.
You just go from sock account to sock account.
No, it's just TJump is too gullible to, ban you. Put up with you on here, I'll never get banned.
So, Heavenly, are you a fan of TJump or
No,
not really?
not really.
Are you an atheist, theist, or
Well, why are you on a TJump server?
I'm a like esoteric Christian.
esoteric Christian?
Esoteric.
I've never heard that one. What does that entail?
A bunch of words that are beyond your pay grade.
All right, you don't have to bore me with them. Yeah. So you're not
Oh,
a fan
yeah.
of TJump, Heavenly?
No.
Hey, Heavenly, I forgot. I saw Terminus today.
How'd that go?
I never heard him speak. He's in there for a while, didn't seem to say anything. I said hello, no reaction.
Well, sir, like
You are schizophrenic.
Oh, soundboard.
Sure, Darth Dawkins.
You have another one?
yeah, I've got a bunch.
I wish you'd hurry to fuck up, Heavenly, and send me all of those.
Any worse than the flu. In fact, the flu is worse than the coronavirus.
Oh man, Earth. Yeah, he's a celebrity here, but for bad reasons.
Who's a celebrity? Heavenly or TJump?
No. I'm talking about Darth.
Oh, you get it, the Heavenly or TJump.
I have like a really funny one of King Xerxes.
I used to persecute Christians. I used to hate them, and now I'm one of them.
Now, Paul 101.
I have like a
So,
funny one of King Xerxes. Let me see the other King Xerxes one.
You know, if I walk into my house and I go to the bathroom and I see a shit in my toilet, I'm gonna start investigating. I want to know why this happened. Now, if I walk into my house and I see a shit on my kitchen table, I'm not too surprised about that. I don't even stop the inquiry. I just expect to see a pile of shit on my kitchen table.
You actually were
Interesting
fairly
also.
good at editing that.
Yeah, that was really good. It's just like I guess he's like appealing to common sense and like cultural norms, but that just like fucks everything up because
No, it's not my fault you reversed it.
like it's not normative, right? Like what's normal for me is like different than what's normal to someone else.
right.
So the analogy just like gets obliterated. Nonsense.
Ice, what's up, man? How you doing?
What? Who are you talking about? Icy? Who just
Yeah,
joined?
Icy. I'm sorry, Icy.
Ice Cube.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you found yourself on a tribal island and you found out what they were eating and you knew there was no way off that island and you needed to eat, would you join them?
Would I join them?
Yeah.
No.
After you found out that what they were eating was not pork, just tasted like pork, would you join in that feast?
No. Well, so you never specified, right? But what if I just don't want off the island, right? I just want to like. You said to get off the island, I had to eat it.
No. There's just no way off the island.
Oh.
Not for weeks or months.
Like, so why wouldn't you just stay on the island and not eat the shit they're eating?
Because what they're eating is human.
What they're eating is human.
A cannibal tribe. That's what you stumbled into. And you're welcome to stay there and, just be one of them. During the time you're stuck on the island.
I'm pretty sure there's like studies that suggest like if you eat other people, you get like dementia. Like all kinds of like diseases.
Again, that does actually boil down to concentration. In other words, how often, how many times. If it's just a bit, it ain't going to be no big deal. Just like anything else. You know what I mean? You can smoke one cigarette and be just fine. You're just going to get that buzz. No, you don't smoke the second one, you're fine.
My parents always taught me like if you smoke marijuana, right, like the first time you'll die. So like I've never tried it.
Think about it. I've been smoking it since I was a fucking kid.
Dude, that's not real marijuana.
Do it myself, dear.
Can I come over, God 420?
Huh?
I said, can I come over?
You gotta bring your own bowl.
One of my friends got TJump to say that. One of my friends was debating TJump and he recorded it and like put it on like his YouTube channel, and he got TJump to say that he got Tom to say that pink unicorns exist in your mind when you think about them. Like a physical pink unicorn in your mind when you think about it.
Who was this?
DL. His name's like DL.
Oh, DL.
He's like a Orthodox like Christian. He's a troll, dude.
I mean, they would exist in your mind, right? I mean, they would.
Like not like physically, like you know, like an actual like pink unicorn.
Well,
Yeah, that's why TJump makes the argument the distinction between conceptual and what is in reality. So you
I got
can
an idea.
conceptualize anything, an infinite number of things.
Get me a synthetic unicorn horn, some crazy glue, and some pink paint, and a horse.
And a lot of weed.
You didn't get the ingredients required: a unicorn horn, some crazy glue, some pink spray paint, and a horse. You make your own unicorn.
Do you know that it talks about unicorns in the Old Testament?
Yeah,
No, actually referring to rhinoceros.
Rhinos.
right. Well, who knows? Maybe they had unicorns back then, and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, like people aren't good at like creating things from nothing, right? That's like why mermaids exist.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question? Which mermaid would you want? The one where the fish part is on top, or the one where the head part is on top, like the human head?
Probably the fish part on top. Because then you can like breed your own fish army. Right?
Yeah. So Heavenly, what servers are you on right now? Any interesting
Uh,
ones?
predominantly like the vat. I think the vat's pretty interesting.
The what?
It's called the vat, like the brain in the vat.
Oh, the brain of the vat. Oh,
Oh, you're on that too?
Detroyer's in there, and he's like streaming chess right now.
that's cool.
Good old Detroyer.
Yeah, Detroit's very smart. He's friends with a Canadian Catholic, and they had a debate with TJump here on this server, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the user I am help is in there streaming. Looks to be a game of some kind.
Yeah, they're playing the Jackbox Party Pack, I think.
Yeah, I'm watching the stream right now.
You're on your alt in there watching it?
Huh?
Your alt watching it? Huh?
Nope.
Your alt is Nosh? Are you Nosh?
No, I can actually. There's a little trick that you can do with Linux, and I can actually watch the stream without going in the voice chat.
Interesting. That's pretty
It
cool.
don't work very good, but it'll work for a few minutes, and then the thing will crash.
That server's taking off.
Completely rips your memory.
I'm pretty glad that server is taking off.
You know which server I was on when I was introduced to the vet, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
I know.
one?
CRD.
Yep. Which I'm not on now, thanks to USB mouse. Mazbrez was just muted, server muted, and then unmuted. Gizmo's in there, Detroyer, Whoops, and the stream's done.
Yeah, I need to delete some servers. I'm in too many. I'm in like over 100.
Oh, you are? I thought you could only have 100 servers.
I did the glitch.
Oh, okay. There's a glitch?
Yeah, but I'm gonna delete a bunch right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm in like 22, something like that.
I'm in Vox Veritas, Best Religious Debates, Theology and Discussion, Reformation, Original Sinner.
I can't wait to join this flat Earth one that Guy 420 gave to me.
Oh my god!
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
the
That's
funny
gonna
one.
be great, dude. Oh my gosh. But I'm gonna be like right in the middle, like he said. Like I'm not gonna fucking play with that. Just fuck that.
You should join the VAT. The VAT's a good server.
The
Yeah, it
the
is.
vat. Oh, the vat. Brain of vat.
Yeah, it's. I mean, most of the people in there are like experts in certain fields,
Right.
so it's good to get like their opinions on certain things. They're always like talking about like like interesting topics.
Can you send me a link to that, Heavenly, if you don't mind?
Hold on. Already did it. Already beat him to it.
Yeah.
There is like you do have to sign a thing to like get access though.
Is it like
Yeah.
a rules and regulations thing?
Yeah, they just ask you like what's your reason for joining,
Right.
type thing.
Kind of like the Flat Earth server.
I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun. I love flat earthers.
You're still on that fucking dump, are you, Heavenly?
The Flat Earth server, yeah, I'm in there.
Case fucking server. Yeah, you're still on it. I see.
I've been hanging out in a lot of Muslim servers recently.
What is it about Muslim servers you like?
I'm just trying to learn about Islam from like the Shia perspective.
I'm on the Believers.
What is isn't the Shia
Heavenly?
the one that I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm on the Believers, Heavenly.
I'm in the Muslim world. That's the one that I'm predominantly in.
So what about the Shias? Aren't they the ones that like only take certain hadiths to be credible or whatever?
Yeah, they're like the minority view. And I just want to hear their argumentation for like why like the majority view is wrong, essentially. That and they also have like I'm really into like esoteric stuff or like secret society stuff. Like I like Freemasonry. I like
All right, then I have a great question for you. Do you believe in like a secret society rules the world and all that?
no, I'm more of like I'm a member of that.
Oh, you
Fraternity.
are. Oh, okay.
Just remember, Heavenly is a flat earther.
Yeah, I'm a flat earther.
Oh, that's great.
Huh?
But
So if you want to learn all
But
about
yeah,
the
so-
54-hour drift, he's good to know.
in Islam, there's a secret society called the Brotherhood of Purity. It's like really cool.
Oh, I sent you a link, Heavenly, to that Muslim server. If you're curious to look at it.
Oh, the Believers, I see it.
Yeah.
Let me delete a server real quick. Hold on.
Remember, it's mostly going to be in their native language.
Hey, God,
Arabic.
God,
You have to watch.
God, did you send me the one to the Brain in the Vat one?
I think I did.
I don't see it. Someone please send me that because I want
I'll
to.
do
Here.
it again. I'll do it again. TJump.
That's interesting, Heavenly. I just watched a video not too long ago about the winner of X Factor. He was talking about like the Freemasons and how they're connected to like all the music industry and the movie industry and all that. And yeah, I just find it interesting. I don't personally agree with it, but it is interesting how there's a lot of symbology that goes along with being a Freemason, and how other people use it as well. So
Yeah, it's just for I mean, it's really just a fraternity of people meeting together and like teaching like virtue ethics.
right.
Masons are naturalistic. They're naturalists.
But aren't in order to be Freemason, don't you have to believe in like a higher power or something like that?
Yeah, you have to believe in a deity, but that's like very vaguely defined on purpose.
I got it.
Because they want to be inclusive to all faiths.
Right. So even like something like naturalistic pantheism would work.
Yeah, totally, definitely. I'd argue that that's the sort of most Masons lean towards naturalistic pantheism.
That's interesting. I never knew that. The guy on the movie role or whatever, he was saying that that they're Satanists and all this bullshit. So
Yeah, it took sending in a friend's request to get it to work for some fucking reason.
I got it.
Yeah, I know you did now.
The thing with Freemasonry though that might like lead a bunch of people off of it
is because they try to interpret all religions, right? It's like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism. They interpret all that through naturalism. So it's essentially like these religions all arose from like natural things, and like the language they use in them is like describing a natural event. So like Christmas, for example, like they'll say that's like a pagan thing, right? That essentially describes like the winter solstice, which is a natural event.
Right.
They'll apply that to like all religions. Like Jesus is like really naturalist.
Yeah, a good chunk of the fucking Christian holidays are pagan holidays.
That is true. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go join theology, so bullies in there.
Okay, you're gonna have some fun.
God. Hey, Boris, what's up, man?
Hi, Boris. What the fuck are you doing in here?
Oh, he's not talking. Oh, there you go.
I'm not allowed to be here, or what?
Hey, Boris, what are you doing in here? Hello?
Getting scared.
Oh. Oh, well.
Boris, you a Christian?
Someone's at my door. Hang on.
Hey, Boris, you a Christian?
What's
Hope
that?
Hope not.
Hope not.
He's changed religion since the last time I talked to him if he is a Christian.
Change religions? How can
Yeah.
you change religions when you never had one to begin with? You gotta like
Exactly.
go from one to the other, right?
Exactly. You better change two religions.
Oh, man. Hey, God, are you married or like, what's your situation? Or like, do you have a girlfriend or what? What's going on?
No. Bullshit happened back when I was 18 and ended up raising a fucking kid, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
Oh well. At least the kid grew up to be smart. He's an atheist.
Well, you must be a proud dad then.
Huh?
I said you must be a proud father.
You're muffled.
Did you hear me now? I said you must
There.
be a proud father.
Oh yeah. And his son's an atheist too.
Yeah.
His father was my son was taught extremely well about the Bible, the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita.
Do you know a lot about the Bhagavad Gita?
I don't know much about it, but he knows a lot more than I do now.
Right.
And he
I've got one of their books, a nice hardcover with a nice. It's pretty cool. I haven't read much of it though, but
I just got a paperback, kind of a leatherish material and kind of a leather type material. That's what I got. You know what I mean, like a leatherback.
Yeah.
Price was right. Found a yard sale for $3. So I said, "Fuck it, I'll get it."
Hell yeah.
Nice book. No. I wouldn't pay the normal price for it.
So, how long have you been an atheist for, God?
How old are you? No, you'll know.
28.
Okay. That's pretty darn close to when I became an atheist.
Oh wow.
When you were born. It was actually just 2 years before that.
Nice.
So I've seen it as nonsense ever since before you were born.
That's really interesting.
Remember, I'm 48.
You cut out what?
Remember, I am 48.
48, right?
I'm older than you.
Yeah. What made you decide to become an atheist, though?
I read the Bible, and I know that's a cliche fucking answer, but that's the truth. And just once I actually sat down and really actually read it instead of just going by our priest, is like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious which version of the resurrection you were taught when you were, because there's like 4 versions, right? In one in
Young
each
Earth
book, right?
creationism. Young Earth creationism.
Well, I don't know. There's 4 versions of the resurrection, one in each of the books, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and they're all a little different.
Hey, Boris, are you a Christian?
So which is the one they taught you there, God?
Hey, Boris, are you a Christian?
The one with the empty tomb.
Oh. Well, one with the door open, or the one with soldiers, or
Yeah, the one with the door left open.
okay. Well, you don't know what book that is, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, you can't. I don't know either. No, I'm not a Christian there.
You know, 3 decades is a long time out, remember. No,
I've never been
again much
religious.
since I came on Discord.
I've never been religious, so I never left religion.
Right.
So I didn't have to read any book or do anything. It never made sense to me ever. All it ended up doing is getting my friends to fight amongst each other when they're trying to tell me, what, they were religious, but they couldn't agree with each other. So we stopped talking about it. Otherwise, they just fought. And I just would rub my chin and go, "How come you guys can't you agree on this stuff?"
Dude, I went on a Christian server, and I had all 5 of the Christians. What's up?
I said my condolences.
I had all 5. I had all 5 of the Christians there arguing with each other because I mentioned that I used to be a young Earth creationist, and then they were and then one of them talked about how evolution can match the Bible or whatever, and the other one's like, no, it can't. It's young Earth creationism or nothing, and they just went off, dude, for an hour.
Oh my god! I wish I would have been in that fucking room.
Catholics fighting against Protestants, because Catholics tend to embrace science more than the rest of them, I guess, as far as a general thing to say. But generally, Catholics embrace evolution, right?
Yeah.
They say that's the way God did it, so. Which I guess is an okay answer, right? They've had to, right? The science is just so overwhelming.
You know the old phrase, don't you?
The old phrase? What old phrase? There's all kinds of old phrases.
All hail dog.
All hail dog.
Well, fuck. Christian or religious seem to put absolutely everything backwards. So maybe the religious figure is actually a fucking dog. They put everything backwards.
It's crazy how much they disagree with one another. You can't get them to agree on anything really.
I'd love to.
Well, you can. They all believe in a God, so that's what they'll tell you. We do agree that we believe in a God. They go, well, yeah, okay, then what is this God like? Why should I believe in this thing that I can't get my head around or whatever? And they start telling this is what God is, and that gets them going because someone else will say, no, that's not what God is. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. You gotta get that type of an argument going in a room and get me in there so I can just listen.
Oh, dude, I will.
Well,
eventually.
if I see you around, I'll DM you because I do that all the time.
When it's a complete fucking nutcase fucking stupidity argument that is beyond ridiculous. Christian versus Christian's got to be good.
It's pretty good.
Well, it's the only way I can win against Darth, right? Is to just say that I don't get what God is, right? It took me a while to figure out, why I don't believe in God and a way to counter Darth's silliness. But you see, he thinks, he calls me a liar, right? Because he thinks everyone believes in a God. You just do. You're just denying. And I go, well, no. I've never believed in a God. How can I believe into something that makes no sense to me? Right? It's like lots of things that don't make sense. How can you believe in that? You just
Well,
take someone's word for it, you know?
what I want Dirk to do is to prove his Christianity to me, honestly. Forget
Well,
all
he
the
does. He does philosophically prove it to you. But
well,
philosophy, from my perspective, is not enough. Right? He thinks it is. He's now on a science bender these days because I
well,
mentioned
yeah,
that to him, and he's been going on and on about the odds of you know X protein coding for proteins and genes, and he must have read a big pile of crap because he's got a new spiel now, and it's all about science, so he can take on the people that talk about science. But it's baloney, right? Like he's using basically the fine tuning argument, right? So, but you can't use the fine tuning argument because because he does it based on odds, but odds are calculated. It's a fraction, right? It's something over something, right? So,
right.
like a die. What are the odds of a particular number coming up? 1/6, right? So, you know, but you can't you can't calculate odds without knowing how many samples you have or how many possibilities there might be, right? So, you know, the universe. Well, you only have one universe that we know of, right? If you say there's more of them, how many possible universes could there be, right? So, so if you don't have a denominator that you can quantify, how can you possibly calculate the odds, right? So that's where, and
That's
they'll
what I don't
bamboozle
get.
you because most people, think calculating odds is a complicated matter when it's actually not.
Hey,
Not from a simplistic perspective, right?
just remember, I got an unknown number of jelly beans in a jar. They're all green ones, and there's one red one in there. What's the odds that you're going to pull
Well,
the
you
red?
don't know in
What's
the
the odds you're going
unknown.
to pull the red one? Get it? What's the odds you're going to pull the red one? Tell
Well,
me.
if it's an unknown number, you don't know what the odds are,
Exactly. That's why I
yeah,
said that.
there could be only 2 jelly beans in there, so the odds are 50-50, right?
Yeah, anything
An
from
unknown
50,
number.
anything from 50-50 up to whatever the fuck will fit in the jar.
Well, sure, but the point is that you won't really know, right? You can't calculate odds
Exactly, you can't.
without
We'll say
knowing
it
the
could be anything
denominator.
from
So
50% to 1 in 10,000. Or anything
sure,
in between.
depends how small they are and how big the jar is, but yeah.
Yes, that's the other one too. How big are the jelly beans? How big is the jar?
Yeah, if you get those little tiny jelly belly ones, right? The smaller ones, nice and flavorful, but they're tiny.
You like those ones better?
Yeah, because then you don't, you just. I like them because you get more of them in the bag, so you get more flavor hits overall. Instead of having one big watermelon or whatever, you can have a watermelon here and a strawberry there and a coconut over there, and earwax over there, puke over there.
And by the way, they do exist.
I don't know if you know that reference or not.
Yes, I do, Harry Potter. I know exactly what it is. And yes, they actually do exist now.
Well, do they actually make them taste like something gross, or are they just fun?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they do.
And it actually,
and people
I've never tried them, but I guess from what I've been told, they actually taste like earwax.
Well, but the thing is, how would you know unless you've tasted your own earwax? And I've never done that, so I don't know where
Because people that
how you
have
can compare it. Right?
people that have done that have compared it.
No, that's gross. Why would you?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like people that I used to watch when I was younger, and they picked their nose and ate it, and that was gross too. So I could never figure that out. But hey, people get over that stuff too, I suppose. But it was pretty funny there. I wonder how gross of a flavors they actually have. How far they go. This one tastes like dog shit. How would anybody know, right?
Well, they have to go out and taste dog
fell
shit.
into a big pile of dog shit by accident. Although I suppose I have had horse shit in my mouth, so I know what that tastes like. But that's because I grew up in a farm environment, and we used to throw road apples at each other. Right? So kind of dried out though.
And if Nihilistic there doesn't know what road apples are, he better go back to a farm.
Road apple. Well, they're only road apples, I guess, if you live on a farm that has roads where people ride their horses on. So, you know, there are field apples too, I guess you could call them, if they're horses in a field. And then cows, that's what they're called, cow pies.
I have fell into a cow pie once.
I've never fallen into one, but I know that my brother was standing there and we were just talking, and there was a cow pie right in front of me, and he didn't know it was there because the grass was tall and it had been dried up except for the very center of it, and it was like dried up around the edges, and I kind of snuck my foot underneath, and it kind of stayed while we were jabbering, and it kind of stayed in shape and everything. I go, wow, and I just gave it a flick with my foot right at him, and it, did a couple of 360s, once plop right on his shirt, right on the front of his chest. Oh, it was just so hilarious.
What did he say?
Well, he got pretty pissed off, but it was hilarious. He just started running at me and got all pissed off. He had to go home and get a shirt. But what was even funnier is our geese. We had a couple of geese, two females and a male, which we should have really had matching pairs. We didn't realize that that's how geese operate. So there was these two geese that were sitting on the same bunch of eggs that were laid, and you're not supposed to, they won't turn into geese if they don't get a cooling period. So it's just the nature of them, and they have to be rolled just the right amount of time, flipped over and things. So we had two geese, and we didn't get any goslings out of the batch of eggs, and it was beyond the time they were supposed to come out, and when they started sitting on them. And my brother went to check one out, and he's wearing a black T-shirt, and he takes a garden trowel, and he has it like right in front of him, and he just like gives it a hack, like a hatchet, and it doesn't break because they're pretty tough things, and he gives it a pretty good hack, and it just goes pow. He had a big yellow gooey slimy stripe right up from his crotch, up in front of his shirt, and up across his face. It was and it stunk even when I was at a distance from it. Right, it stunk so bad they were rotten. Right, so inside.
I bet that made him happy.
No, that was. I can't remember if that was before or after the cow pie or not, but that was another gross event. Right, so.
I don't know about you. You're awful mean to your brother.
What's that?
You're mean to him, eh? Exploding an egg at him, and
I didn't do that. No, he did it himself.
Yeah, right.
Check it out, and I said, no, I don't know if you should. I don't know if that's a good idea. It's like, oh no, no, no.
You told him to approach it.
Big laughter. He just wanted to know what was in it, and I said, it's probably something rotten. But it's just the way he had it. He didn't like. I knew that if it was gonna splatter, which it could have, it would have just splattered at you. I didn't realize it wouldn't be quite so much. But the way the egg was sideways, like, and he had the trowel, like you're trying to chop a piece of wood or something. So of course, if it's gonna pop, it's gonna like pop right at you, right? Which it did exactly that, right? So.
I guess
understanding the laws of physics when something pops, what it's going to do. Term for that. I forget what it is, though. It reminds me of the stuff that, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Homestead Rescue.
Nope.
Oh, okay. It's I think they have some YouTubes on it, but it's basically an Alaskan family, a father and daughter, and son, and they go around the U.S. Trying to help people that have decided to buy themselves some piece of property with some shack on it or nothing on it or whatever, and they build their own thing and live off grid, and it's kind of hilarious. So, but you learn a lot. I learn a lot from it too. It's a reality show, of course, but the thing is that, and it's overproduced, but you do get to learn, sort of the tricks of doing crap with nothing, right? So living off grid, learning how to use your chainsaw to do almost anything.
But
And he always does sketchy stuff. That's what I was gonna say. He always does, the old man. It's a miracle he hasn't killed himself yet.
Too.
What's that?
Most of the ones that I know of that are off grid have electric chainsaws as well. Like those.
It'd be pretty hard to have an electric chainsaw when you don't have much in the way of electricity, right?
Doesn't take that much power to charge one though.
Oh, it does so.
Oh no, not really. Chainsaw battery is about we'll say 8 amp hours, and the battery bank is 4 killiamp hours. So you're going to charge an 8 amp hour battery off a 4,000 amp hour battery bank. It don't take much of the charge.
Well, there's more to a battery and power than just amps.
Yeah, I know. I did charging monitoring as I experimented with that to see exactly how much it would take. And it takes about 8 amp hours out of that 2 killiamp hour battery bank.
So just a couple percent, if not even that.
And where are you going to get the charge from?
Solar panels.
Solar panels?
Off grid.
But solar panels, how many solar panels do you figure you're going to need to charge that in like a couple of hours?
A quarter of one of the panels that we got. My solar panels are 350 watts each.
Well, that's what they can put out maximum, absolute guarantee.
In the middle of the summer,
like perfect sun, straight up, like.
I've seen it go to 650 watts when they're focused properly on the sun. That's per panel.
I've never seen one rated at 650 watts.
Not rated there. They're 350s. But when they're brand new, they overperform. That's what gets most people.
I don't know. I've looked into solar panels like from Japan and stuff, and that's not how they rate them. I mean, you can get
that's what the ones on my roof put out.
Is only like 250 watts, right?
The ones that are on my roof are rated 350, and for the first couple of years they were up there, they would peak off. They would peak. I can't remember. I'd have to climb up on the roof and look at them. But when I first got them, they actually would almost double what they were rated for. After the first little while, they dropped down. But for the first while, they were way overpowered. That's why when people get a new system, if they're going to have a problem with their charge controller, it's going to be in the first year that they've got the panels. If there's going to be a failure in their charge controller, it's in the first year.
After that, it's going to go a lot of years before failure unless there's something wrong with it.
Well, how many watt hours are an electric chainsaw? I haven't seen anyone use electric chainsaw on the show at all. So how many watt hours are electric chainsaw batteries?
They're not using them for your electric winter's wood. They're using them to, cut some boards or cut a branch out of the way, or they're just using it for yard work. It's not like they're gonna go out and cut 6 cords of wood with it. But that branch that's in the way, or that one little stick or thing you want to cut off, they'll cut down a sizable tree if you need to. You just can't bucket with it, with one charge. I took down a 13-inch tree with one electric chainsaw.
Well, yeah, but I was asking how much power, what size battery do they use?
Mine's a 48-volt battery, and it'll run. Well, if it was that 13-inch tree, it would cut about 12 cuts.
What's the size of the tree got to do with anything?
Huh?
What's the size of the tree got to do with anything?
I'll just tell you how much it did cut with a full charge. I cut it. I made 12 cuts.
I think that depends on a lot of things, right?
Oh, that's what mine did. That's all there is to that.
How long is the bar on that one?
14. So it was like just at the limits.